Dear students, this is a guidance session for interview preparation. This session was held for mains appeared students of ForumIAS.
So good evening, everyone. So I hope that everybody has written mains in this classroom. And some of the questions, before I go on with my agenda, it will be pertinent. If you can ask me your questions so that we'll pull it in together and we can have a discussion on this with a certain level of acceptable interactivity so that I'm able to tell you or give you a piece of my mind and you are able to go satisfied having answered all the questions in your mind. All right. So we are meeting today for interview prep for CAC. So how's the Josh? Not very high. Not very high, that I can feel. The Josh is not high. You know, it's the condition of Trishanku. You know the story of Trishanku? So sometimes, you know, these kings were cursed by the gods not to be on earth. They were too heavenly to be on earth and too humans to be in heaven. So they are hanging in between for eternity between earth and heaven. So you can probably relate to the condition. Mains में पढ़ाई की है, you have studied for the mains examination, but for at least some of you, उतना भी अच्छा नहीं गया है कि, है ना? So broadly, let us just pull in some questions from you and let us have a coherent strategy. Remember that all of us, each one of you, depending on your position, will have a different strategy. It's not going to be one for all of us. We have to treat different paths. All right. So just what are the major challenges you are facing right now? Batao, what should we discuss today? Yes? What? Yes. Very good question. Very good question. So this is the, teenage problem. Am I good enough? Am I good enough? Replace good with whatever adjective you want. This is a good question. This is basically the first question that we'll address. But let us pull in more questions. All right. Any other? Mains 2023. Quite a challenge. Low efficiency. Okay. What exactly to study? In this unknown vacuum between what you call adolescence and adulthood. Parents say you are an adult, and big boys think you are still an adolescent. Yes? Any more? Okay. DAF preparation. Several services. Okay. We'll take this up in a subsequent class. Yes. Study current affairs for interview. Pertinent, very pertinent question. Focus on what is imp. All right. Important and not important. Very good. Yes. Mains. Okay. So this question is, am I pretty enough? Am I good enough? Yes, the people sitting to my left, the left people are not speaking these days. The right is active. This is good, I mean, this is the most comfortable you can ever be in your preparation journey. You know, you'll always be scared throughout your preparation journey. This is the phase where you're scared and relaxed. This is the part of your preparation journey where you're scared and relaxed. The rest of the times, you're scared and in panic. English words are not sufficient to describe your status other times. All right. So the first thing is, let us be very precise here. So the first thing is, am I good enough? All right. For the interview, should I begin my interview preparation? That's the first thing. That's the first question that most of you have in your minds. Here, more often than not, I will tell you a few things. Two or three things is something that you need to keep in mind. That is my mains gone good enough that I should prepare or not? Unfortunately, there are no easy answers for this. So it's back to teenage years again, where you do not have the correct answers. You will be in a guessing game until the results come. So that is an accepted truth. In such a case, take it not just as an advice for your interview preparation, but as a life advice, that whenever you are in a doubt what to do, what is to be done, what do? You do your duty. What do? You do your duty. So, in this class, we have an assortment of people who have written the mains examination. If you ask anybody who has not written the mains examination, just somebody who's just starting to prepare, or somebody who has never cleared the prelims, even a child can answer that question, that what should a person who has appeared for the mains examination do? And I think a fresher can tell you the answer. They will tell, if you have appeared for the mains, you should probably at least have some preparation for the interview. So let me be very unequivocal, unambiguous here, that it is not your job to decide whether you are good enough or not. It is not your job to decide whether you are good enough for the interview call or not. That is for the commission to decide. Be very clear with this. That's not a decision that is for you to make. That's not your decision. That's the commission's decision. We will abide by the decision when it comes. And in the absence of the decision, we will work towards our goal. Is this clear? That should give you some clarity, if not absolute clarity. So point number one, write it down in your notebooks, if not on your minds, that at this point, what we need to do is do our duty. And what should a person do who has written the mains examination? He should prepare a bit for the interview, at least a bit. All right? Even if you are terrible, even if you've written like 12 questions. Second thing that I want to tell you is, every year, see, God has a sixth sense of humor. All right? He will give you everything except that one thing that you really want. So more often than not, every year I have some brilliant students with very good communication skills. And sometimes they are overachievers as well. Sometimes I often find they are overachievers. And the sad tragedy of them all will be that when they get an interview call, for some reason, for the first time in their life, they did not prepare as much. For the first time in their life, while they have nearly been prepared all throughout their 10th class, 12th class graduation, it is the only time when they did not prepare, and God also has shown his cruelty by giving them interview call in the first week, sometimes the first day. So for some reason, I don't know how it works, but for some reason, those who don't prepare, उनका interview call तो पहले week में आना है. ये बहुत clear हो. So be very prepared for this. This is something, I don't know how it works, how the commission fixes this, but that's, so one thing, be sorted out, that when you have written the mains, you gear it towards the interview preparation. And in some ways, if you don't prepare, be prepared for the first week interview call. You will be the guinea pigs, everybody else will read your transcripts and prepare for the interview. That is how it has worked so far for the past 10 years. All right? So that's one thing. So here is, how do you begin your preparation? This is begin your preparation. One is irrespective of how the mains examination has gone, in some ways, you have to begin your preparation. The first stage for that is read the newspaper. Now, some of you may be completely what you call classes fed and magazine fed generation. And some of you may be completely based your preparation not on the newspaper. You may have been completely fed on magazines and classes. That would be it. I can, with a lot of confidence, say that without reading the newspaper, you have a fair chance and a very good chance of clearing the examination with a very good rank in the mains. But when it comes to the interview, it does become a little challenging, not reading the newspaper. See here, why I'm saying to read the newspaper is because, see, when we read, you also have to know the why. Why I'm saying that magazine may not be sufficient. Your magazine or a monthly compilation may not be sufficient. You'll be reading things. When you read the newspaper, there's something which is written in a very broad font, big font. So you know this is an important news. And then there's something that is written in a small font. So you know that this is not as much important. Plus, you will always have unique events covered very well in the newspaper, from which if they align to your profile, they will be asked. All right, they will be asked. And here, don't expect that everything will be covered in the magazine. It is neither desirable nor possible for the magazine to cover those facets. All right, you will also not know what is the relative importance of a news. You will also not know what is the relative importance of a news when you're reading it from the magazine. You will be in a trap. Right, so here, please make sure that you read the newspaper. When I appeared for my interview, the lady member asked me this question, that Ayush, have you heard of the Blade Runner and why was he in news? Anybody has heard the name of the Blade Runner? Oscar Pistorius. Why was he in the news in the last time? Yeah, he murdered his girlfriend or wife. That's what I can remember. I had, by some stroke of luck, I had often skipped the sports page, but for some reason, he had made front page news that year. Because a person who was very celebrated, he did not have limbs, and he had prosthetic blades attached to his legs, and therefore he was a very fast runner, and therefore so they were sharp as blade, and he was known as the Blade Runner. And this question was asked to me. I was thankfully able to answer this question. But years on, I often see that such questions will be thrown at you, and therefore, at this stage, now it would be injustice if this news was a part of my magazine, that Oscar Pistorius murdered his girlfriend, and therefore, it is in my magazine. You will probably not read the magazine if it has something like this. आपको लगेगा कि इनको exam का understanding नहीं है. And it's not wrong if your magazine is not covering something like this. They do not ought to cover something like this. So be very clear with this. Now, reading the newspaper, few things, please try to do 2 newspapers. One, at least one of which should be mainstream newspaper in North. I have used the word mainstream in North, which means that try to cover, if you're reading the Hindu or the Indian Express, well and good. If possible, please go for either TOI or the Hindustan Times. Now see, I would sound very good, very academic if I say, no, just keep reading the Hindu. But to be very honest, you can have much better productivity if you're doing it from Times of India for the purpose of the interview. You know, I do not look very good saying this on a public platform, but that is frankly the truth. Teachers who say that, no, read Hindu and be more intellectual, but that's not what is needed. You will be asked questions from the very normal front page. All right, and Times of India will do a good job sorting out what is the recent case and what is the recent judgment. All right, so what is the recent case and what is the recent judgment? So, plus, unlike the mains examination, where also you need to write in simple language, here you will have to have more commonsensical answers. If you give very technical answers in the interview, it is quite likely that the commission will not understand what you're saying. Be very clear with this thing. Why we will give it an exalted position, we also have to be clear with the harsh realities that a very commonsensical answers are very much needed. All right? So make sure that you're reading 2 newspapers. Second is make sure that you are noting down what is being said by certain people. See, this is the only stage of the preparation where you may read, to some extent, semi-political news. Semi-political news means you do not have to get into, BJP, UPA, NDA, all those things. That is not what is needed. You have to also get into the fact that as he said that one Mr. Khan has been convicted and therefore he is recalling RPA. That is what I mean. So if recently a deputy chief minister of a certain state said that the speaker has different application of the anti-defection law on ruling party MLAs and a different application for the opposition parties, then you need to be aware that a certain political figure has said it, while you will not be expected or required to know a name, but you should know that this is what is happening in the country. All right, this is so if you get a question like what is the problem with anti-defection law, you do not give a academic answer. यहाँ पर है ना, academic answer is not what is the first point could be say that sir, a lot of opposition leaders or a lot of leaders think or a lot of people think that there is a differentiated or there is a selective application of law by the speaker on ruling party MLAs versus opposition party MLAs. This is something that you will have to get from the statements of the leaders or the judgments that are happening. And mind you, if you have read the newspapers these days, you know the judiciary is going to be very active. And for some reason, the judiciary has found its soul again, or it looks as if. All right, so it is going to be very active, so you'll have to be very watchful what the judges say. I'm not going to say that you have to know the technicalities of it, but in simple English, you should be able to say that what has been said recently by the judges in this judgment or in this case, what has happened. All right, so you need to know this. Third thing that I want to say in newspaper is you should know what has happened. What has happened? When I say what has happened, it will not be something very elaborate, or you may not have to, while you may have to know the details, what is needed is you should be able to tell in 2 lines what has happened. In 2 lines, you have to be able to tell what has happened. Let us wind the clock 2 years back. So in the country, there were farm laws were brought in the country, all right? And every day the newspaper was full of protesting farmers. You may have read n number of times the front page for almost 2 or 3 months. It was covering only the farmer protest. Now, a question that will come for your purpose, all right? So it will have a lot of political angles also, too many politicians giving their opinion on it. Now, for your importance or for your preparation, what is important is, the question that may come is, what is the reason that farmers are protesting? All right, what is the reason that farmers are protesting? And while you have so much information of day-to-day war reporting happening at the borders between Delhi police and the farmers, you may have to have the ability to summarize it in 2 or 3 lines. If you are not able to do that and you just describe that, sir, yesterday they got into violence, there was this, there was that, that is not what is needed. You need to probably have the juice of it. You know? Can anybody in this class just briefly tell me what was the reason that farmers were protesting against the farm laws? Anybody? In 2 lines, you tell me, yes? Yeah. Okay, she said that APMC would be deregulated and the farmers would be in the hand of the capitalist. All right. Anybody else? Yes? Yes. Very good. So broadly, if you see, you will have to have a very condensed and calm answer, final answer to this, where you could probably say, sir, the farmers were protesting against the farm bills because they felt that it would lead to the corporatization of the agriculture sector and they would be at the mercy of the capitalists. Also, there was a feeling or dissatisfaction among a section of farmers that they were not consulted on a piece of legislation that would affect their livelihood. That is what is expected. Trust me, while listening to this answer, you may feel that, sir, ye to bahut aasan hai aur keh denge. I have taken hundreds of few hundred mock interviews. People don't give simple answers. That year also people gave this big answer, narrating every day what is happening between the Delhi Police Commissioner, between the Home Ministry and between the various farmer groups. Not many students had the preparation level that was needed to say it in 2 lines. This is that you will have to always focus. If there is a judgment on, for example, the hijab controversy, If there's a judgment on the hijab controversy, you say, okay, what is the problem with the doctrine of essential religious practices? You should be able to say something in 2 or 3 lines. And unlike the mains examination, where you write 7 or 8 points, and I'm very sure that you would have been prepared with 7 or 8 points for the criticisms of the doctrine of essential religious practices in the interview. It is not desirable that you tell them 8 points. It is desirable that you tell them in 2, 3 lines in a common man's language that what are the criticisms of the doctrine of essential practices. Can some of you tell me what is the problem with the doctrine of essential religious practices? Any 2, 3 criticisms? Bolo? Yes. Ha.
Basically, the main criticism is the judiciary would have the power to decide something that is divine. And how could you, basically 5 men, men and women, what is necessary?
Yes. Fine. So, what I would expect a very simple answer in this. See, right now, please understand that I'm asking in a class full of aspirants. So, all the answers that are being given are to the point. But when a one on one session happens, people end up molesting the interviewer's ear. All right. Violence with the ear problem happens. Such a big answer that you probably want to just collapse. You wish कि धरती फट जाए और तुम चले जाओ नीचे. Because students will not stop there, they will explain the whole issue. Whereas maybe I, as an interview, would expect 2, 3 line answers. That's what some people feel that the courts have little knowledge of religious law and they have knowledge of secular constitutional law. So they should not be getting into religious issues as such. Also, sir, what is an essential practice is not defined, because what is for a religious person, everything is essential practice. And for a non-religious person, nothing is a religious practice. I eat egg on Tuesdays and my mother thinks that I'm a very irreligious person, because she thinks that it is an essential religious practice. She thinks that how can somebody have non-veg on Tuesdays? And I say that egg is not a non-vegetarian item. I try to defend my position, which is, so therefore, for her it is an essential religious practice, and for me it is, I think it has little to do with religion on that day. So what is expected is in 2, 3 lines you should be able to summarize. So that is one role of the newspaper. Also here I want to caution you something, that be very objective when you read the newspaper. Here one problem that happens in some of you, not, objectivity is extremely important while you read the newspaper. Why I'm saying this is because sometimes what will happen is that instead of reading the front, this is the point of your preparation where you have to read the front page news. What will happen is you will read a very radical opinion or an editorial column from the newspaper. And then your answer will be completely biased. Like even in a farm question, when we have to criticize, take a view, let us say critical of the government, we do not have to have a radical criticism. You could say that some farmers think that they have not been consulted in the lawmaking process, which affects their livelihood. That is all. Not that, that's not to be said as an absolute statement. That is not to be said as an absolute statement. You say that some people feel, or some sections of the society, or some people feel like this. All right. So you do not make, so be very objective. Don't read a column which is very, a very radical opinion is there, and because it is radical, it will of course stick to your mind, right? The stickability of radical ideas is very high. So which is why that will stick, and some people have gone and given very radical answers and that has backfired for them. Because suddenly it feels that he has a very, I'm not saying you do not need strong opinions, but what I'm saying is you need to have well-informed opinions, all right? Another reason why I'm asking you to read newspapers, and you will have to cultivate this, is take any question such as even the doctrine of essential religious practices. If you are cross-questioned on this, you will have to know what has happened in Karnataka. You will have to know that what has happened. They will ask you question, Acha, where has it happened? Which district am I talking? Which district did it happen? Huh? Udupi? Udupi or Mangalore? All right. So, which district happened? What was the case that happened? So, is it within a school or a college? You will have to know that, bacha. You should be able to say, ki, sir, in a certain university or certain college, this is what the school management decided, all right, or the dean of the college decided that this is what it should be. है ना? You will have to know these details. Last but not the least, whatever is your position, which should most likely be along the lines on which to some extent, the constitutional ruling has been there. Somewhere along these lines, your opinion should be, because you are applying for a job under the state, right? I mean, under the state. So while you have to be concerned about the citizens' rights, it is also imperative that you have certain respect for what is the view of the state on this. So my expectation here will also be that you are also aware of the criticisms of the court's judgment. Because what will happen is, if you just memorize 5 points, like, that some people feel that court is not an ecclesial body, it does not have great knowledge of theological laws, or it only knows constitutional law and interprets constitutional law. It should not happen that there is a counter question with the criticism and you collapse. कि ये तो मैंने सोचा ही नहीं था. है ना? In humanities, you will anyway have arguments and counter arguments. And for our sake, we have to know that ये पक्ष है, this is one position, this is a opposite position. We are aware of both the positions. And when we know both the positions, you should have a middle ground. So when you cannot defend your position under a certain criticism, when they ask you, but है ना, कि so Mr. X, don't you think that this criticism is not valid? Then you should not collapse. You say, कि yes, sir, some people do say that this criticism, and some people do not agree with this position of the judiciary. You should be able to say something like that. That will happen only when you have read and you are aware of the both sides of the debate. That will not happen when you have just mugged it up from somewhere. All right, so that will be a challenge. See, to be very honest, as a coaching institute, we will have some classes, we will give you some final answers on all controversial questions. That will one problem that we will solve. But my problem here is that even if I give you the final answers, one difference that will be there is that if you are cross-questioned, then you will not be able to sustain under cross-questioning. So there will be a problem. All right, but whereas you have read at least 7, 8 articles on the issue, because every day something was being said. All right, then your conviction will be very different. And then if I give you a final answer, your conviction will just be stronger. So therefore, the conviction will, it's not that you will not need our opinion. You may want to discuss, that, sir, what should be our final position? And we can give you a final position as your teacher. I could tell you that you can say this as your final position. The benefit here is that because you have done so much reading, with that final position, you find a good, strong pillar of support. That all is there. But in the absence of a vast reading, I give you a final answer, you give a final answer there, and under cross-questioning, you will not be able to sustain. This will be a problem. All right? So, iska bhi thoda sa khayal hame rakhna hai. That is with respect to reading the newspaper. Another thing I want to say here is that, bacha, your mains exam has happened in September. So make sure that you are aware of at least September news also. That will be one big black hole in your, that will be a big knowledge gap in your this. So make sure that you are aware of news items from September also. Do not start reading the newspaper from 1st September. How do you read the newspaper? 2 rules you have to follow. One is you only read today's newspaper first. है ना? Otherwise, when you get to the interview call, you will say, sir, my interview is in February. I said, what is the problem? Right now, I'm only, by February, mera December ka newspaper khatam hoga. No, do not be that sequential. Read today's newspaper as the first priority and maybe 1 or 2 days, other days newspaper. Do not be an over-ambitious person who decides that I will finish in the next 3 days, 30 days newspaper. Please don't try to do that. Hannah, do not overestimate what you can do in 1 day and don't underestimate what you can do in 3 months. Hannah, you have to give it time. You have written the mains, so that level of maturity is expected. Hannah, do not try to have such things. And then when you decide to do 30 days newspaper in 1 day or 2 days, when you fail, you lose all energy and you are crestfallen sitting in a room playing PUBG again or some variant of it. That should not happen. Okay? So make sure that this is, so this thing you have to do. Acha. Also make sure that this is the only part of the examination where I say that please make short notes from the newspaper. While we have always said as a coaching that you do not need to make newspaper notes, This is the only part where I say that at least make one-page news from the newspaper, not very elaborate, exhaustive notes, but what has happened today, क्या 4-5 बातें हुई हैं. Trust me, there was this candidate, I hope to, he's not in the class today because so what happened is last year he was able to get 191 and the year before he got 151. He was a good candidate, he had left a very high-paying job. So 2 weeks back, when he dropped by the center, I asked him, and he had an interesting take. Sir, I'm getting married, and I think that my interview will be in the middle of it. I mean, my marriage will suddenly fall in the middle of it. And because it's a love marriage, I need to focus on the marriage also. Big responsibilities. Is there any way I can have my interview at the end? I can write, है ना? So anyway, so he had different set of challenges. So when I asked him that, what did you do? You got 151, and what did you do when you got 191? He said, sir, I was from Ahmedabad and I had cracked many interviews. I had cracked BCG. I was among the best placed students from my college. So मेरे को लगा था कि हो जाएगा मेरा. मतलब UPSC का interview है after giving so many interviews in the private sector. And so therefore, sir, I was definitely looking back. So now that year I had told him, we had an interaction. So he was my online student. So I did tell him that you need better preparation. And he had the time for it for some reason. He was able, not because he did not have interview call not in the first week. That was not the case. The case was that was COVID time. So everybody got more time to prepare. All right, plus we had many sessions because उस समय और कोई काम नहीं था. Online Zoom sessions were happening every day. So we were doing this at least once a day. And it was lockdown years. He clearly said, sir, I had not prepared and I thought I will make it. Also, I had good degrees. From IIT Delhi I had done, so I was a little more confident than I should have been. And I think that backfired. Also, my brother had cleared with was in Indian Administrative Service. तो मुझे लगा मेरा भी, और उससे तेज था मैं. वो civil का था, मैं तो electrical का था. है ना? The ignominy of being a civil engineer in this country. All right, so Bhaiya was in civil, I was at least in yes. So, and therefore I said, okay, how do you think you got 191 last year? He said, sir, simple, because I had prepared this time. All right, simply because I had prepared. I said, why did you not prepare the first time? He said, sir, I got more time, but I did not know that I have to prepare. I thought they will test my personality. और मुझे लगा ठीक ठाक दिखता हूँ, तो नंबर मिल जाएंगे. या ठीक ठाक डिग्री है. Don't bank on that. There was one candidate in particular I remember taking the mocks. So after taking off his mask, he said, sir, I have a very pleasant smile. And I think that I have all my life, I have gotten compliments because of it. A male candidate. All right, in particular. Okay, so I think that COVID ke karan, shall I do something so that they allow me to take off my mask? So that I score something from the $1 million smile I've got. Thankfully, before this session, just last 2 weeks, I saw that he was posting some pictures from Labasna. So I was happy to know that he is through. He got through. And so thankfully, I'm not sure, he did not come back to tell me whether he was able to benefit from his $1 million smile or not. So those problems also happened. Anyway, so make sure that you have done the newspaper. You will also have to do the front page of the newspaper. For the purpose of the interview, you may read editorials and columns, but do not take very strong opinions. You will have to find your opinions have to be very objective. They have to be very, when I say objective, I mean they have to be very fact-based. They have to be rooted in actual events, not in imagination and prejudices and biases. I will give you, at the end of this, I will also give you an example, or maybe in the next session, I'll give you an example of lack of objectivity in opinions. So that's the first thing. Now, second is, all right. Second thing is, with respect to beginning your preparation, newspaper is half the job, and it's just half the job. The other part is, there are few things that you already know, and that are a little unchangeable. Home state, hobbies, and work experience. Few things. 3 things. Okay, the home state is not unchangeable. All right, so for the purpose of this little community that we have, be very clear that you can be very flexible with your home state. All right, if You've already filled your home states. Home state DAF 1 में, all right. So वहाँ unchangeable है, but at all have this information that the commission is very flexible when it comes to identifying and determining what is your home state. So there are students who are sometimes from one North Indian state, and they have done their engineering from a different North Indian state. They have been able to suitably amend their home state, and commission does not have a problem with that. And they should not probably, one nation, the very idea that states should have lesser identity and the national identity should be more promoted. So that's very much in line with it. But do not make a mistake of, so last year I had one candidate already in service, a candidate who was Telugu speaking wanted to put Uttar Pradesh as a home state. Why? Because IIT Kanpur. I hope he does not see this ever, because it is easy to identify people once in the service. So you can choose whatever home state you have, but primarily it should be broadly based on a few criteria which you already know. One is what? The place of birth, or where you have permanent property or a permanent house. Domiciliary, or where you have largely been resident, but on the basis of schooling also people have chosen, and they are very safe now, at least with the benefit of 10 years hindsight. I can say कि 10 साल तो service में हो गए हैं उनके, so you can clearly say that that's safe. That's one. Second is, with respect to home state, is that please, whatever is your home state, do prepare your home state and at least prepare 70, 80, 100 questions on it. All right, 70, 80, 100 questions on your home state. Long back, I had one candidate. We were expecting him to get a 1 rank. He got a 10th rank. I remember he was the one who introduced me to Evernote, and he had prepared total of 2,000 questions. All right, because the initial year, first year, he had gotten a rank of 250. Then he moved on from there and got a 10 rank. So he was very enthusiastic. He said, last time मेरा छूट गया था, इस बार मैंने बहुत questions prepare किए हैं. Remember this, you have to do entire preparation in Q&A format. Why am I saying this? Please, those of you who are appearing or doing their first preparation, it is very likely that you will have a lot of you, instead of doing Q&A format, you may have started making notes on Uttar Pradesh. And after 1.5 months, the notes will be so comprehensive that you will be outside KBC Nano कि सर इसको publish कर दीजिए, है ना? इसकी book बन जाएगी Know Your State में. Don't do that. Look, when you started preparing for the prelims, or not so much for the prelims, but at least for the mains, you may have read the whole syllabus. And when you come to write your test, कुछ और ही पूछा है. Right? Then you realize कि तैयारी ऐसे करनी थी. है ना? Life is to be lived forward and understood backwards. The sad tragedy of life. है ना? You will always be able to connect the dots in the hindsight. बस अभी समझ में नहीं आता है क्या करना है. All right. So, है ना, what should I have done? Very easy to say. उस समय क्या करना था? ठीक है? अभी क्या करना है? Difficult to say. So make sure that you do not have a elaborate notes on home state. Otherwise, you will copy paste from Wikipedia and now it is so bulky you don't want to read it. And so prepare everything, because what has happened is that students have come prepared. Uttar Pradesh, they have made art and culture का अलग section है, उसमें बड़ी प्यारी notebook बनाई हुई है, 6 subject notebook on Uttar Pradesh. Now question is asked that what is the reason that law and order perception of UP is bad? Now the student is saying कि sir ये तो notes में नहीं है ना? I did not ask why the law and order problem in UP is bad. I said why it is the reason that law and order perception in UP is bad. So now remember that the questions will always be on this line. That will require the application. You will have to probably rotate your whole notes कि think कि अच्छा बर्बाद क्यों है perception. Can some of you think and tell me what could be the reason the perception is bad? Not the reality. In reality, we have seen a lot of improvements. Yes, UP wale? Yeah, they're blaming the movies now. है ना? Zilla Ghaziabad, Mirzapur, right? One of the reasons. Good enough. ठीक है, so one. Other reasons? Huh? Increasing number of encounters. Media houses are placed in UP, so that is why they cover it a lot. Okay. Glorification of mafia. All right. Bulldozer governance. Haha. UP is a huge state and with large number of Lok Sabha states. Yes, that's to some extent that correct. I remember that when Uttarakhand was separated, I thought that acha, UP will become smaller. Then back then I remember that UP had 85 seats in Lok Sabha, and then I came to know that 5 will go to Uttarakhand and 80 will remain. Yes, okay. So after 3-4 points, excuses have started to come. And that is all vote bank politics. Acha, remember one thing. Be very clear with one thing, that in any of your answers, you can always please blame the bureaucracy, never blame the politicians. All right, please blame the governance, please blame bureaucrats, please blame police administration and civil administration, not the politicians. Because the minute you start that, there are two things. First, when you are preparing, you will just write that as an answer. ठीक है, prepare करोगे तो you will write political problems. And when you give that answer, it means that you are not solution oriented, because politics is a reality. So if you get a question that in any place in Uttar Pradesh or anywhere else, what is the reason that riots happened? Please don't think and give a layman answer that, sir, riots happened because of politicization. No, that is not the answer. The riots happened because the local Thana was not alert and deployment of police personnel at the right time did not happen. Be very clear with this. Your answer cannot be that local politicians played a role. Then please don't prepare for civil service. फिर बाहर से audience बनो, common man बन जाओ. ये सारा कुछ politics है ना? You always start blaming the politicians. Civil servants cannot do that. That is what I mean when I say objectivity in answers. That why did riots happen? Not because politicians started it, but because the local Thana was not alert enough, timely information, it was not able to and police deployment at the right time also did not happen. So also, because normally when a riot will happen, there will be a person who will be calling out people, chalo chalo, riot karne. But what happens these days? I have done some ministerial duties, so I can, at a time when social media came. So I can tell you with some experience, and the people who are sitting there have a lot of experience here. See, earlier, whenever some riot or chaos would happen, all right, whenever some riot or chaos would happen, then what would happen is there would be a person who would be the leader of that gang. All right, he would be calling out, ki chalo, hai na, challu chalo, ballu chalo, ye kaam karna hai. Now what happens is, sometimes these mobs are spontaneous. Why? Sometimes these mobs are leaderless. Why? Because the message has been circulated through social media. You have to be very sensitive to this fact that local Thana, you call up your Thanedar ki what is the reason that 200 people gathered? How did you not know? He said, sir, jo yahan ka the dabang person hai, he is not there in the area, so we were not expecting him. But the main troublemaker is not in the area. He is in jail, so we were not expecting a mob. तो पता करना होगा. And after 2 hours he will say कि सर WhatsApp पे किसी ने फोटो खींचकर फैलाई है. It's a spontaneous mob. And from there, because of this reason, you suddenly start connecting that why the Home Ministry is so keen on traceability of messages for social media. Because why I'm saying about objectivity is because half of you would be thinking that Home Ministry is trying to control social media for political reasons. But more than 700 districts are there in this country. When the Home Ministry will get a report from nearly every district, and red beeps will come, red flags are coming from every district, that spontaneous mob gathering, local police, not aware, nobody's aware. And suddenly 300 people have accumulated and formed a mob, and the message was via social media. You will learn to appreciate the fact that it was for a good reason that the Home Ministry made it compulsory for WhatsApp to provide or limit sharing of or mass forwarding of messages. Today, WhatsApp does not allow you to mass forward messages. And you can send it to not more than how many people? 5 people. Jaan bachi, nahi to chacha chachi ka aata suprabhat, subah subah. People suddenly have found WhatsApp on big media. So you will start appreciating. This is what I mean when I say lack of prejudices and biases. Because some students, they come with this mentality that the government, because you do read a lot about civil liberties and civil rights, and we have to, for the mains examination, till the mains examination to a great extent, we have to respect civil liberties, civil rights, which should be our priority. But you also have to appreciate and remove this bias from your mind that the people in power want to take it all away. That is not the case. There are certain exigencies of administration and governance that will require limiting civil liberties and civil rights. Exigencies of governance and running the state and administration will require that. So which is why objectivity is needed. All right, so you will have to have these things. All right, so when you prepare state questions, you make notes. Also, make sure that you cover all major tourist places. Major tourist places. Now, why I'm saying major tourist places? Because questions will come, and they will come very basic questions will be there. Very commonsensical questions. You can take the help of your parents in these matters. Why I'm saying this, that you need to take the help of your parents? You are a Zomato generation. Right? I mean, if you need to find out something, you don't even know. You're a Zomato and Google Maps generation. You know more things on Google Maps than in physical reality. The virtual world is more dominant in your life. But unfortunately, the commission that is taking this interview belongs to a pre-Zomato, pre-internet generation, pre-mobile era. So while you may be ordering food a few dozen times from a place, you may never be aware कि ये restaurant है कहाँ. है ना, ऐसा है कुछ बच्चों के साथ, पता ही नहीं है कहाँ है, लेकिन 5-star rating पूरी दे रखी है. Right, कि very happy कि ये है ना, cloud kitchen. So similarly, while you may be dreaming that एक बार selection हो जाए, गोवा नहीं सीधे मॉरिशस जाने का, या for some people बैंकॉक जाने का, ठीक है, you have plans. The senior citizens, they did not have such plans. छुट्टी में कहाँ, या फिर छोटे हो गए तो कहाँ जाएंगे, तो मसूरी चले जाएंगे. अब तो ड्रीम है मसूरी का, not denying that, है ना, but not just for vacation. Now, see, one tragedy of civil service preparation is that if you are not able to go to Mussoorie, then you will never be able to go to Mussoorie. All right, one tragedy of this examination is that if you are not able to go to Mussoorie, then Mussoorie छुट्टी मनाने के लिए पूरी लाइफ नहीं जा पाओगे. एक sad tragedy है हमारी, ठीक है, इस मसूरी में बाकी सब मना लेंगे, आप तो नहीं मना पाओगे. ठीक है, तो कोशिश करना है कि जिस समय जाना है मसूरी उसी समय जाएं, है ना. मसूरी में if you are planning for Mussoorie, we better go to Lavasna. Otherwise, every time the family will propose कि मसूरी चलते हैं, and you will say नहीं, of all places, कहीं चल लेंगे, पैसे मैं दे दूंगा, बाहर चलते हैं कंट्री के, मसूरी छोड़ दो. Right? एक बार सोचा था जाने का, है ना. All right, so that's one sick. So yes, the commission that is asking questions, they will have actually gone to Banaras on their vacation. ये छुट्टी है तो बनारस में सारे मंदिर के दर्शन कर लिए. Whereas you may be living in Banaras, but you don't want to go to the temples. And therefore, you will have a question that which is the Siddhapeeth, how many Siddhapeeth are there in the country? And why is Banaras Siddhapeeth very important? Why is Banaras Siddhapeeth important? What is there? How many Siddhapeeths are there? Anybody? Huh? 51. Banaras में क्या है? How has it been created? ल्यूसेंट से याद कर रहे हो तुम? 51 याद है, यही यहाँ पर पकड़े जाओगे. Yes, anybody? What has happened in Banaras? Is it a Siddhapeeth or is it not? It is. Which part of the gods or goddesses' body is there, has fallen? Now the whole story you will have to know. Be very clear with this. If you are anywhere around that area, then you will have to know what has happened, why it became famous. What are the temples that are there, because they will have gone there. And what will happen is, just to break the conversation or to speak to you, they will say that, okay, in Banaras, what is there? I had gone there. Choti si baat hogi. Now he's saying with a smiling face and your face is turning white. That's a रहता हूँ कभी गया नहीं है, है ना? है ना? Just like you may live in Delhi but never go to see Qutub Minar, है ना? You'll say, sir, mall wall बड़े हैं उससे, towers हैं, Burj Khalifa देखेंगे one day. So that, but jokes apart, you will have to prepare these historic places, that what are the major things, what is the significance, why, है ना? You have to know what is there and why. What and why has to be prepared. All right? What and why has to be prepared. And do prepare, if possible, those of you who have some extra time, because some people will have late interviews, if possible, do visit your neighborhood and go and see it for once. You will be mentally relaxed. है ना? See, remember one more thing, that interview, in the interview, there will be a part of the interview is a due diligence test. A part of the interview is a due diligence test. Write it down in your minds. If not, it will be a due diligence test. Why I'm saying this is, bacha, as a civil servant, you will have a lot of varied experiences. You will have to give approvals for a lot of things. The people who are sitting there have lived an entire career doing those things. All right, people have lived an entire career doing those things. A civil servant and the ones who are there are the most successful bureaucrats. And they have been successful. Why they are successful is because after post-retirement, they have been, they are a part of the commission. So once you are a part of the commission, even if you've retired as a chief secretary or a secretary to the government of India, it is a big promotion. First is, it's not only a post-retirement perk, but because the minute you become a member of the commission, you are at a constitutional post. So before that, you will always be a sir, but the minute you are a part of the commission, you become mananiya or honorable. Your batchmates will address you a little publicly as honorable or mananiya. That is added to your name. So you have been successful in bureaucracy. And to be successful in bureaucracy, you have to take a lot of good decisions. Sometimes decisions when there is not enough facts or information is not known. So what happens inherently as a psychological process, and you will understand this if you appear for 2 or 3 interviews, which you should not. All right? Then it's self-defeating. So if you appear for 2 or 3, 4 interviews, you will realize that a lot of times the commission will eliminate candidates or give less marks to candidates who do not pass the due diligence test. All right, who do not pass the due diligence test, which means that, I'll give you an example. Okay, so I have gone to so the commission has people with a lot of years of experience which you cannot replace. All right. So what happens is, I have been working, for example, in the social justice department. I have briefly worked and I have seen what is a Bal Sudhar Grih, a juvenile justice home. All right, what do you expect it to be? What do you expect it to be? How in reality would it be? Has anybody gone there? So there'll be, has anybody gone there? Okay, Mausi was superintendent. What did you see? How was the behavior of the young juveniles? They were silent and subdued. His Mausi was the superintendent. So you visited when your Mausi was there or when she was not there? Okay. Are you aware that sometimes judges of High Court and Supreme Court visited? Are you aware of this? Inspection will happen. So what will happen is the superintendent, see, the juveniles are near adults. Remember yourself as a juvenile. किसी के control में आप भी नहीं थे, वो भी नहीं है. Plus they have fallen out with law. So the real condition will not be like a college hostel that from 6 to 9 p.m. a.m. they are studying and in the evening they are playing sports and obediently they are sitting and studying and doing something. As he said, they are very subdued. That is only a part of only one part. When I went there, there was a visit of a judge. Now these juveniles know that this superintendent who has managed to subdue me all throughout, this is the time for badla. So before the judge's visit, you have to make sure that none of the juveniles do self-harm, because they'll beat up each other, and when the judge sahab will come from Delhi with a very liberal mindset, without understanding the realities of a juvenile justice home, you will see that they will be beaten black and blue. पूछेगा किसने किया है? What will they say? Superintendent ने किया है. ठीक है, तो superintendent की हालत बहुत खराब रहती है उस समय, क्योंकि उसको पता है कि रात भर एक दूसरे की पिटाई कर, because there is a lack of fun. करेंगे क्या दिन भर? कुछ मजा चाहिए. So they may indulge in a lot of self-harm. This happened in my case when I went. I was aware. तो superintendent को जज साहब ने ऐसे लताड़ा कि आज उसकी आखिरी दिन है नौकरी की, है ना? But then things, so this will happen, and you have to make sure that there is nothing throwable objects are not there. You have to make sure that TV वगैरह will be put inside a cage. ठीक है, एक केज के अंदर टीवी जाली लगी रहेगी, टीवी के सामने थोड़ा दिखेगा ताकि, because you know that Just before the event, they will break the TV. Judge will come and see that TV कब टूटा है. वो कहेंगे सर साल भर से टूटा हुआ है. Judge will say that this place is, you're not managing it. So before that, you will put all the TVs in a cage. When he will come, you will unlock it just for half an hour so that you know that this will be the pakka case. So these are the harsh realities. Now what happens is, somebody will have written that, sir, I have worked for child rights and I used to go and give chocolates to young children in Acha. They will be, in my case, when I went there, they knew the highest form of जितने abusive words होते हैं सब उनको पता थे. पहले तो 17-18 साल के लड़के थे, 16-17 year, or even who was 8 years old, he was trained in abusing people. So he will abuse you until you hit him. He will raise that level. That would be the level. That is the real condition. Now what happens is, some of you may end up writing, I am working in the field of child rights. I went to juvenile justice homes and I have distributed sweets among them. Now this person who's taking your interview is a bureaucrat. He has sometime been a director of social justice department in his state. He knows that Judge Sahab will come and he will say that Director Sahab will also come and inspect the juvenile home. And he will ask these questions, do you visit or not the juvenile justice home in your territory? Now this IAS officer knows that these are the challenges. He has to deal with reality of administration. The judge does not. He has to inspect it merely. So what will happen is, you will give some very soft answer. Sir, I saw what, they will ask you a question like, what did you see there in the juvenile justice home? You will say that, sir, it was very good. There was an educational atmosphere. You will try to give an NGO type answer. That there was a good education and there was, in the evening, there was adequate opportunities for sports and physical development. And in the evening, there was a good atmosphere for studying and education was the focus. Now, this is what is a complete bogus answer. Then the person who's interviewing you knows that ये एक दिन गया है किसी elder के साथ, या तो इसके father या कोई relative posted होंगे. He has gone there once. And before the interview, somebody gave him this idea that, and he has read the POXO Act very well, so he thought कि चलो इसको हम डाल लेते हैं DAF में. And he will fail the, or sometimes what will happen is, you will put that, sir, I have been teaching young children. Or let us say, I have been working in and helping out in an orphanage or senior citizens home. Now, unless you, so there will be a due diligence question, Achha, you're working in an orphanage, so what is the name of the organization? Second is, okay, who's the name of the founder of the organization? Who's the founder of the organization? So what may happen is, when you are writing these things in your DAF and you are not aware, then you will be in a trap. Because then you are not knowing the due diligence, you are failing the due diligence question. All right, here also know that when in the interview, when you say that I am from Patna, they will say that, okay, what is the, how many stairs? Sometimes it's not, these days they are not asking this question. They will not ask you, but they will broadly ask that, okay, what is the good things about, have you been to Patna Museum? And now Patna Museum is a beautiful museum because of the history of Magad and so many artifacts are there. So you may either have visited it or you may not have visited it. But the answer is an objective yes or no. It is not an opinion that, sir, bachpan mein gaye the. Then you say that, sir, I have not been to the museum. Because the minute you say I have been to the museum, you will be asked questions of objects that are there, that what are the 3 or 4 things that kya dekha aapne? Now you have probably seen the building from outside at best. That is where you will again fail the due diligence test. Because they will say, at the entrance after you went in, what did you see? So there it means that, and why I'm saying this is, isko aise understand karo. How many of you are from old Rajendra Nagar here? Raise your hands, old Rajendra Nagar students. All right. So what happens is a very simple question if I ask you. That what are the challenges before old Rajendra Nagar? What problems people are facing? Yes? First of all, rent. That is your exclusive problem. All right. Anybody else? Yes? Water. As in, pani khatam ho ja raha hai tanki mein? Not hygienic water. Yes? Anybody else? Narrow lanes. Yes? Huh? Owners. Okay, so he has covered it in rent. The problem is, the root of all evil is wealth and wealth distribution. So that is covered. Yes? The traffic. And don't tell me student problems, tell me the public problems. तुम्हारी cook खराब है तो फिर क्या solution है? Change the cook. हाँ बोलिए. Infrastructure as, don't say something like infrastructure. That is a jargon term. Ekdam clear. See, that is what that will completely turn off a bureaucrat. You clearly say what do you mean when you say infra. हाँ क्या है बताओ उस infra में? It is overcrowded. ठीक है. देखो हमेशा jargon avoid करना, where I need to ask you, है ना? Do not always say something that makes immediate common sense. Give commonsensical answers in the interview. Yes. Yes, last, anybody? Huh? Stray dogs, yes. Now see, what I'm telling you is that there, if you are, let us say you say that, sir, I live in Rajendra Nagar, I will ask you some questions that, okay, what are the challenges before Rajendra Nagar today and how will you solve them? To be very honest, if you're talking about ORN, and ORN people will relate here, rent तुम्हारी individual challenge है, it's not a public problem, ठीक है? और खराब खाना is your cook problem, काम वाली problem, उसको solve करो, ठीक है? But public problems, है ना? Public problems, as I said, is first is that one is narrow lanes or, for example, overcrowded lanes. There is a problem of, for example, garbage on the roads and hygiene. Then there is a parking problem, people park on the roads, on both sides of the road. Then there is a stray dog menace. Anything else which are real problems, real ground which people, hai na? For example, there is also, you could say, encroachment of walking pavements. That is there. Coaching institutes nahi bhai. Xerox shops. Coaching institutes are not on pavements. अभी हालत इतनी खराब नहीं हुई है कि pavement पर coaching institutes encroachment करें. दुख हुआ. ठीक है. So encroachment of walking pavements. Now what is, so I know that this person, if I ask them what are the challenges, they will say, sir, what we need to do is, first is, and the typical answer will be that, sir, first is anti-encroachment drive has to take place. Then we have to ensure that the municipal staff is doing their duties diligently. There is segregation of waste and there should be some sensitization and awareness generation with respect to household garbage management. This is what I'd expect. Then, sir, stray dog menace ke liye, there has to be, municipal action has to be taken against stray dogs, and somewhere we have to find a sweet spot between people who feed the dogs versus the people on whom dogs feed, right? Big gap, right? People who feed dogs, they don't understand why some people are afraid of dogs, and people who are afraid of dogs don't understand why some people feed dogs. Big gap. So this is what you'd expect. Now what happens is, you have not visited Rajendra Nagar. In your DAF, you have written Rajendra Nagar. I'll ask you, so you've been to Rajendra Nagar? Well, yes, sir. Now you are afraid that mere DAF mein hai, I will look like a liar if I say, no, I have not lived there. You say, yes, sir. Then I ask you the problems, or what will you do for Rajendra Nagar? Now you are giving me some generic answer. You are telling me, sir, the biggest challenge before Rajendra Nagar is women's safety. Women are not safe there. If at all women, I broadly understand that there is enough women's safety in Rajendra Nagar. It is well locked at night. I think not many vehicles can enter the area. If there is a women's safety challenge, there could be some challenge from here, this part. But I do not see a lot of hooliganism. Is that correct? Do you feel safe in Rajendra Nagar? Broadly you do. I think so. I can be wrong here. You are saying, sir, what we need to do is, my first priority as a local officer of Rajendra Nagar will be women's safety. अब मेरा खून खोलेगा थोड़ा थोड़ा. The second challenge will be, sir, we have to democratize and strengthen RWAs. Then we have to focus on skill development. किसको skill दोगे तुम वहाँ पर? I will make sure that education will be my focus. Skill development, landlords को तुमको दे देंगे नौकरी वो. ठीक है? So now the thing is, this is what I called a bogus answer. This candidate has clearly failed my due diligence test. His answers are not grounded in reality. This answer is good enough for mains. ये आंसर क्या हमको लिखना है, कहाँ लिखना है? मेंस में लिखना है. ये आंसर हमको इंटरव्यू में देना है. दोनों में डिफरेंस क्लियरली समझ लो. Very much objective, very much grounded answers. This answer clearly, why? Simple reason is, with this answer, I'm not able to understand whether this person has stayed in Rajendra Nagar or not. And because he fails my due diligence test, now I know that पूरे कागज पे जो भी है, all of it can be difficult. A civil servant, is he a risk-taking person or he's a risk-averse person? He is risk-averse. Remember, I'm the son of a bureaucrat, so I can tell you that when people retire from bureaucracy, what is the highest compliment that they get? the simple biggest compliment they will get on retirement is कि बहुत अच्छे से अपना career बचा के निकल गए. You'll be surprised कि भाई, but then as you grow older and mature, you realize that, है ना, you realize that that is actually quite an achievement. That without getting into any trouble, you have managed a good career in public service. Otherwise, because you are always continuously working in the public area, you will often be subject to a lot of allegations. Okay, that's the biggest compliment that you will ever get. You meet very senior people, including a former election commissioners also. They will also say that, what is your biggest achievement? He'll say कि देखो पूरे career में कहीं कुछ दाग नहीं लगा. That's the biggest achievement. So they are very risk averse. When a candidate gives an answer like this, what happens? They don't understand you. It's not that they misjudge you. They don't think you are a bad candidate. What happens is they think that ये मुझे समझ नहीं आया. और जब समझ नहीं आएगा, then what will they do? They won't give you very less marks, but they will have an averaging tendency. You also go to a restaurant, you go to a place you don't fully understand it, तो क्या करते हो? रेटिंग के लिए फोर्स करेगा तो क्या करोगे? 3-4 टाइप से देकर निकल जाओगे. नहीं समझ आया, राइट? So you will, that tendency will be there. You will have an averaging tendency here. So make sure that when you do preparation, that if I ask you that what are the major places in Agra, if I go to Agra, which places would I visit? I want very clear-cut answers. And I want an answer from somebody who claims to have lived in Agra and studied in Agra. You may be from an internet mobile generation, and you may have never gone there, but it is not, but I am who's asking the question is not from that generation. And I'm not from that generation. So therefore, my expectation is that you would have visited your neighborhood. All right? So when it comes to preparing your home state, identify all the major places, identify 7-8 major questions. Home state, major places, all the major challenges, all the major potentials of that state. Major places, major challenges, major potentials. You will have to know the famous personalities. Know the geography well, which means basics of rivers, hills and mountains. Have you heard of Barabar ki pahadiyan? Anybody has lived around that place? Kahan par hai? Yes, Gaya. So now you may not, if it is in your DAF, you will get that, okay. So the question will not come that, okay, what are the major hills that you can see in Barabar? But what may happen is the question may come from, so I was watching a movie known as The Mountain Man. Can you tell me who is the mountain man? Then you will say, Dashrath Manjhi. तो कौन सी पहाड़ी वो काट रहा था? Now you will have to have that clarity कि अच्छा ये पूछ रहे हैं because my DAF says that I have lived in Gaya. If you are from Gaya, what is expected is that they will ask you completely questions on Buddhism and Jainism also. You have to prepare that. Then questions will flow that what is the reason that, for example, Buddhism spread everywhere except India? So those questions, complete detail. And if you are from Gaya, or if you have philosophy optional, or if you have Buddhism or anything closely related, then please prepare Buddhism in detail. Because some questions that have been asked, I have a decent knowledge of Buddhism and I'm not able to answer them. And with a philosophy optional, I'm not able to answer them. Because some people do go overboard with Buddhism. Not only the differences between Hinayan and Mahayana, they sometimes go in further details also. So basics yaad karke gaya ki acha Hinayan, Mahayana par to tak to prepared hai. They will even go further. So make sure that if something, then you do prepare. This does remain a hotbed topic. All right, so you do prepare, what are the major potentials, that what industries, what agricultures, what are the major challenges before the state. All right, if you are an advisor to the chief minister, what are the 3 or 4 major inputs that you would say for the development of the state. So that is with respect to your home state. Prepare everything in a question answer format. All right, please follow one first rule of this in preparing home state and other things is that please have an incremental preparation. Which means that out of excitement, don't try to frame 200, 300 questions at once. बहुत धीरे, take small steps. You know what is incremental? more agile model. So you say that, okay, home state per hai na. So one good way that is most students do is that they will send that, acha, this is my home state. You give it to all your friends and family. They say that ask 3 or 4 questions from this over WhatsApp. You ask them to do that, and they will send you some questions, and you can start answering them. So sometimes you will find very beautifully that your parents are able to frame very good questions. You get it from there. So and also make sure that you don't get so many questions that now you lose the motivation to prepare them. You have now 600 questions on your home state. Now you have, and you are not a mountain man. It's too uphill a task to prepare them. Make sure that ye nahi ho. Incremental. Second is, incremental preparation of questions has to be there. 5-6 questions are you listed. Second is, please do not prepare, or what say, prepare maximum 2 to 5 answers every day. At least I would say that 2 to 5 answers, if you're preparing every day, you are sorted out. You will be able to prepare over a period of time a lot of answers. If, on the other hand, you want to know all the answers on one day, then it will be a little troublesome. I can tell you this with a lot of experience, that people, hyper-excited people who decide that I will finish it off today, often end up doing nothing because they are too bogged down by the process. Remember one golden rule, that if you're not enjoying the interview preparation process, you are not doing it right. I repeat, if you're not enjoying the interview preparation process, then kuch galat kar rahe ho. Isko remember it as my words, that sir has said this, that something you are not doing right, because if you make it that big a task, you will develop a negative sentiment towards the interview, and everything can be managed, but once you develop negative sentiments toward the interview, then it becomes very difficult. Fixing it is a big challenge. All right? So prepare 2 to 5 answers. One more thing is that also make sure that when you're preparing these things, you at least read wiki entry on them, the Wikipedia entry on them. Because most of the times, whatever will be the most outstanding fact about the place, it will be usually in the first paragraph of Wikipedia. Whatever is the outstanding fact of the place, it will be on the first paragraph of Wikipedia. Be very clear with this. So what may happen is that you may be from Banaras and you do not know it is a Siddhapeeth. It will be on the front page of Wikipedia that it is one of the major Siddhapeethas of Hinduism. The others being this, 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 that. So तुमको पता चलेगा कि अच्छा ये question बनता है. And that is something that is, see, चिराग तले अंधेरा होता है, ठीक है? So what happens is, you've been living there, you will not know it, but somebody who's studying it from outside, that is the first thing that he will know about it. Acha, you are from Banaras. And just like some people see, some people, when Western people, even in 2022, when they think of India, they think that it is a land of cows and snake charmers. Right? They always think this. Why? Because that's the first thing. You see any BBC documentary. No matter whether it is about Indian politics, Indian culture, Indian food, there will be few cows. And even if they're teaching about chole bhature in Purani Delhi, there will be a cow and then suddenly a snake charmer will appear, bean bajate hue. So the West is seeing that, so you're from India, so they will, the next thing will be, so you have a lot of cows and snake charmers. And you'll say, okay, I have not seen, okay, cows we are seeing now, a lot of them in urban areas because of some reasons, but snake charmers, some of you may not have seen in a long time. Yeah, so that would be the first thing that they will know. So make sure that you write every Wikipedia entry on it. Also, make sure that you are writing down things. Writing down things. Writing down answers. Why am I saying that you must write down answers? Please have every answer written down. Not the perfect thing, but at least a few words written. Why? Why a written answer so important? So one thing is there, that if you have not seen, all of human civilization has progressed because somebody who discovered or invented something wrote down a book. And then the next person was able to start from where the first person had ended. Right? We were able to benefit from it. So on a temporal or a time scale, progressively things became better. If you don't write your answers down, and the first time they are saying, okay, you are from UP, what is the major challenge before UP? The first time you say, sir, law and order. Second time you will say, sir, sugarcane farming. The third time you will end up saying something else. This often happens in the question, why IAS? You know, why IAS question, if you don't write it down, in the morning you will say, sir, I want to serve the society. By afternoon you will end up saying, sir, I want to fulfill the dreams of my parents. And by evening, you don't know why you want to do civil services. You said, sir, actually, after engineering, I did not get placement. And so I decided to do civil services. Right? And all these answers apart, a very common thing happens is after the interview, I'll get a text message, ki, sir, I think I messed up in the IAS question. I said, why? Which one did you say? He said, sir, I said all 4 things. सोसाइटी भी सर्व करना था, पेरेंट्स का भी ड्रीम फुलफिल करना था, और जॉब चाहिए थी लास्ट में. इफ दीज 3 आंसर्स आर देयर, आई एम टेलिंग यू, यू सिंपली से कि सर, आई थिंक इट इज अ वेरी गुड करियर अपॉर्चुनिटी, and I think it is a good career opportunities and for young people. That itself is a brilliant answer. You can get 205, 206. But if you try to bring all the angles in one like a mains answer, कि सर मैं 7 पॉइंट बता कर आया हूँ, then you have done violence with the ear of the interviewer. Not needed. 2-3 लाइन में हमको we have to sum up what we have to say. उससे ज़्यादा लाइन से तो टीचर बन जाओ. ठीक है? Yes, so write down your answers, otherwise you will not be able to improve on it and you will be moving in circles. People, what happens is they don't write down, they get a very brilliant answer, and after that they forget the brilliant answer, they come back to the very ordinary answer and they keep moving in circles. So sometimes you'll see people, I mean, it may happen with you that for 20 days you are caught preparing just one answer, you had a eureka moment and you finalized an answer and now you are again asking the same question. It often happens that a student has come, he has asked a question, not written it, and then again after 20 days he's coming, he's asking the same question. And they say, when an answer is given, acha, haan sir, ye to solve ho gaya tha. That should not happen. Okay? So this is with respect to your home state. Then with respect to hobbies. So with respect to hobbies, few things, some realities are that you have to be aware of. See, I'll give you a very good answer. You can choose your home state on the basis of any of these factors. That's point number 1. All right, place of birth is not necessarily the home state. Your primary place of education, early education can be. Sometimes for a lot of people, their college education has been also their home state. They have chosen it. That commission has allowed and never investigated till date. I'm saying this with 10 years experience and even before that. The second thing is, you do all this, but when you do it, don't tell everyone and do it. Because nothing will happen until somebody files an RTI. That on what grounds has Mr. X decided that Uttar Pradesh is his home state, whereas he is a Kannada-speaking person. Then you will be in trouble. So when you do that, don't be very vocal about it. चुपचाप अपना होम स्टेट डालो. सर्विस एलोकेशन तक भी मत बताओ क्या डाला है. आराम से, once things are happening, then nobody will question you. Otherwise, you will always be on the radar. During the rank allocation, some people will keep asking, अच्छा तेरा तो ये है, तूने ये डाला है. Somebody will put you in stress. No need to do that. So you can choose on these grounds home state, और ये सब 1-to-1 में पूछ लेना कुछ, उसके लिए छोड़ दो. ठीक है? सब क्लास में बता देंगे तो दिक्कत हो जाएगी. Yes, hobbies. So what is a hobby? What is a hobby? Let us, हाँ बोलो. Current affairs for home state. So yes, one myth that you must be very clear about is that generally in the first attempt and first interview, most people think that current affairs of my home state is important and they start reading the Dainik Jagran of that state. Not needed. Broadly, even political developments, they are not asked. The home state questions, unless there is something like going on in the state or a center state, unless there is something happening in the state which becomes a national news, do not worry about your home state questions. So do not be under, because some students see, one thing is you will have to have the focus on the right things. So let us say, for example, if your home state is one that is having a river water dispute, then you need to know about it. If it is having anything that is becoming national news, then you need to know about it. But apart from that, nothing of the current affairs of the home state is important. Yes. Okay, yes. Another question is, with home state itself, we should take the question. So what is the relative importance of preparing these? One is the home state. The other is, for example, school education. Then there is college education. Then there is work, place, city. And there is civil services, examination, preparation, city. All right. Whatever is there in your DAF, the most important home state or technically place of home state and or your place of birth. All right. If these are different, then these will be important. All right. Then if these are not different, then what is the last place? That will also be very important. For example, you are working in Bangalore, your work city becomes extremely important after that. That if it is you are working in Bangalore, working in some organization, then Bangalore becomes very important. So these will remain most important. In fact, if you have a work experience, then this city becomes most important. After which, I would say if I give you this the first ranking, this is the second, third will be this, and fourth will be this. All right. So this is the relative importance of the places to prepare from. If you just have a correspondence address in Delhi, not big of a trouble if it is not your home state. But home state / place of birth, even if they're different, then they become important and you'll have to prepare it. Workplace or the last place where you have been, that will become important. Okay? Any other questions from home state? Huh. 7 to 8 data points to prepare about your state. 7 to 8 data points, which broadly include what is called the population. That what is the population? है ना? The GDP, per capita income, the sex ratio at birth, position in national ranking, in any national ranking, on health and education. All right, position on any national ranking in health and education. Apart from this, these data points are best that you need to know. Apart from this, you do not need to go very much. See, if the commission has to grill you, they will ask you that which district you are from, tell me what is. This generally will happen less likely to happen in your real interview, but will happen in video interviews. That they will ask you that, okay, you are from Muzaffarnagar, tell me how many, what is the gender ratio in Muzaffarnagar. But they will generally, this will happen to put you down, that generally happens in video interviews. You will not get a drill down question like that from a district, that is only for catering to tier town YouTube watchers. That's not important. You have, and these questions also, see, if the commission has to grill you on data points, then they will grill you. That cannot be prepared for. So I would not say that you should be a person who should be, because if they are not, they want to grill you, they will grill you on this, and despite best answers, you will not be able to. So you do not put efforts on that part. You have so much data that you are struggling with the data points. And secondly, when you are collecting this data, that data sometimes is good enough to substantiate your position. And that's the latest report. For example, you say that Bihar has the minimum per capita spending in health. Or Northeast is having, so what can we learn from Northeast? Then you say that, okay, per capita, health budget of Northeastern states is much higher, 4 times the northern states. So that is what you will be quoting it to substantiate your point, largely. But this is what is needed. Apart from that, do not go by population of your state. Some states you could say that, okay, the largest number of districts, if a river flows, rivers, and what districts are north and what districts are south, maybe at max, nothing more than that. All right, any other questions from home state? Yes. No, not at all. Not at all. People generally, what happens is they do put their cadre preference. Sometimes there is a discrepancy in what is the cadre preference and what is the home state. They are done for several reasons. Sometimes people don't want to go to their home state. Sometimes people want to go there to their real home state, so they declare something else as the home state, then they apply as an external candidate. That is not a trouble. You should have an answer for it. The commission will have a good level of objectivity. But your answer has to justify, and it's easy to understand it. Be very honest in these things, is par dikkat nahi hogi, and we'll tell you how to do that. Now comes to hobby. So what is a hobby? In one line, how would you define a hobby? Okay. Love doing. That is a hobby. Now, everything that you love doing cannot become a hobby. Yes. I would say Yes, empty time. Activities pursued at leisure. इस fundamental fact को do not forget this. This is very fundamental. इसको लिख लो. Activities pursued in leisure time. Which means that if you are writing book reading is my hobby, all right, and commissions अच्छा बताओ which books you have read, then and because your interview call is in the first week itself, you did not get the time to prepare. You don't give an answer like, sir, first of all, because it is my 4th attempt, I have been preparing for so long, I have not read any books in the past 4 years because of my preparation. Now that leaves a bad taste in the mouth. Why? Because the hobby is an activity that you pursue in your leisure time. Now see, one challenge that your generation definitely has is that you have less time. Right? Because what happens is, I often see every year students are putting gardening as a hobby. Now they have not lived at a home which has, they have been living, preparing for the exam, so therefore living in small rented apartments without pursuing this hobby. Acha, the person who's taking your interview is of generation of 70s, 80s. All right, not even the 90s, 70s, 80s. So generally they have lived in a substantial part of their career has been in a tier 2 town with a big space where gardening happens. So questions wahan par aa jayenge. If you say gardening, they will ask you that, acha, batao, how do you propagate rows? There will be difficult questions there. So don't just, you are a habit of just planting dhania in your gamla, and then you are saying, sir, gardening is my hobby. है ना, so धनिया होगा अगर फिर वो सब करोगे तो फिर that will backfire. अच्छा, you do genuinely, I understand that most of you, because the world is in a globalized world, generally one thing will dominate. In 10 years from now, if TikTok is brought back to the country, in 10 years from all the people will write TikTok as the single hobby. People will generally pursue one thing, one best food, one best clothes, something like that. So obviously in your generation, you have much less time to pursue activities, so you will have that challenge. But please understand that the people who are taking your interview, they did have a lot of leisure time. समय उनके पास था. So if I will give you a very good example. So what happens is, sometimes there was a student. So what happened is, he wrote that reading Ramayana and Mahabharata in his hobbies, that this is my hobbies. He got a rank, but because he got a rank and because of certain conditions, he did not get police service. So I was taking his mock. He did not interview. So my experience with these things, like reading Ramayana, Mahabharata, reading Hindi poetry, it has been a very old experience for me. Around 2017-18, I had a candidate. So he wrote reading Hindi poetry. I had a very bad experience with this, because every year, for some reason, there will always, generally, there will be at least one former Delhi police commissioner in the UPSC. All right, generally, always there will be one former Delhi police commissioner. What happens is, he'll be known for ragging the candidates. Is since the beginning, for the past, है ना, हमेशा कोई दिल्ली पुलिस, अभी है कोई? हमेशा रहेंगे, ठीक है, देखना है इसको. So my experience was that people, whenever they have written Hindi poetry, there will be difficult questions. And what will happen is, generally people who write Hindi poetry, what have they read? दो कविताएं पढ़ी होती हैं. One is Rashmi Rathi by Ramdhari Singh Dinkar. The other is Madhushala by Harivansh Rai Bachchan. इसके बाद what we'll do is, you will write Hindi poetry, and you will try to, say that whenever है ना, मंदिर मस्जिद भेद कराती, एक कराती, मधुशाला, few lines of poetry. Now what will happen is, when one of those, see, you are faking a hobby of poetry, you don't have that much time, but the person who's taking your interview, they have pursued reading poetry in their leisure time. They have pursued reading poetry in their leisure time. So therefore, what happens is that this candidate in particular, I still remember, he did secure a very good rank. He secured first rank in Indian Forest Service that year, around 16-17 की बात होगी है. So we had practiced a lot preparing for the interview. What happens is, he comes crestfallen. I said, what happened? He said, sir, they asked me 20 poets' name and I had never heard those poets. ठीक है, और 2 दिन पहले we had identified कि ज़्यादा से ज़्यादा निराला पूछेंगे, है ना कि चलो हरिवंश राय बच्चन after this, ठीक है. So don't put some hobbies like this. Similarly, so what happened is, next year I had another candidate. He did not score well, but thankfully he got a good rank. He got under 100 rank, 97, 98 rank, and that year IAS 100 के अंदर मिल रहा था, 97 तक गया था, and he was I think the second or third last candidate, but he got a good state also. Now what happened is next year I had another candidate. He had written Ramayana and Mahabharata. Now tell me, by inference, generally people, when will they start writing Ramayana and Mahabharata? What have they read? Huh? Devdutt Patnaik, the commercialized version of Ramayana Mahabharata. They will have read one Devdutt Patnaik ki Jaya wali book and they will write, and you will have the illusion of knowledge. Right? So this candidate, now what happened is, he did get a decent rank. So the first time he came, I was in this building, there was my, just beside this, there was my cabin, so we were doing, I said, why did you write this? He said, sir, मैंने कोई भी question answer कर लूँगा. Then I asked him a few questions. I did not want to off-put him because, see, in these Ramayana Mahabharata, na, anybody who has more experience than you can beat you, even if he is not any more intelligent than you. समझ रहे, you go to a village, a person who's older will beat you in Ramayana Mahabharata. ठीक है, he will give you 5 reasons why, है ना, while Ram sliced the nose of Shurpanakha, कि पिछले के पिछले जन्म में ये हुआ था, उसके पहले ये हुआ था, उसके पहले ये हुआ था. ठीक है, so they will, it's a matter of experience, it's a matter of wider reading, and frankly, you have much less time than that. All right, so he got, and he was grilled on that. So he reached a point with the board where he was no longer able to answer questions there. Next year again, he came for the interview. He got a rank that year, he got revenue. Next year again that he got, तो इस समय I said, इस बार भी लिखा है रामायण महाभारत? बोला नहीं सर, इस बार नहीं लिखा है. खैर ठीक इंटरव्यू किया, 26 रैंक आई थी बच्चे की. ठीक है, so I was very happy, things ended well for him. So make sure that when you are writing your hobbies, you should have pursued it, or you should be able to answer questions from it. You are pursuing something, you are doing it 1 or 2 times, and they say, sorry sir, actually my problem is that I have not been able to pursue it. Acha, don't write very fancy hobbies. Like for example, in civil services, though the civil services interview is much more open than what it used to be earlier, which means that there are a lot of people from different walks of life are coming for the civil services. There are students who have written that modeling is one of the hobby and they have gotten good marks and they are IAS officers. Way back in 17 itself, I had 2 candidates. When they came for the community meet, I said, what do you do? So, sir, I'm a model. I was a little surprised. Yahan kya kar rahe ho? Then they said, sir, I've gotten this rank. I'll probably be getting IAS. All right, in a community meeting. So that happened very long. So now the commission is much more. But still something like don't write something like crypto trading, stock brokering. ये सब चीजें नहीं लिखिएगा. Because this is something that while you may be hidden it, but because they are not looking for a person who is sitting on a computer every morning trying to make money from whatever situation that can happen in the day. See, it's not entirely wrong. You see that you are going to be in a public place where some money opportunities for graft be there. And then we have a person जो सुबह 8 बजे trading शुरू कर देता है पैसे कमाने के लिए. So it is not a bad thing, but it is not very much appreciated. Means don't expect that because you are a share trader and you have been flaunting to your friends that, sir, I've made 20 lakh rupees in share trading. This is something like, oh God, now he is not suitable for this job. While in your friends you will get a lot of respect, here it is a big problem. What is needed, also do not write very entrepreneurial type of profile. That a person who is very business-minded, not suitable for the job. Too many ideas, not suitable for the job. Very regular, बहुत normal person who is going to sit in his office, sit from 9 to 5 and do his job, deliver things to the best of his abilities. That is what is required. Don't have very fancy or very, very fancy hobbies, crypto trading, Bitcoin में पैसा लगाना, ये सब नहीं करिएगा थोड़ा सा. Olympus trade करते हैं. Because people are increasingly putting this. So do not put something like this. You could say that, okay, cryptocurrencies, I have interest, so there will, but do not put anything like trade. Also, do not put too much of your entrepreneur personality there. Not very much recommended. Do not put too much of a entrepreneur. Last year itself, I think there was this candidate with some rank in 400s. पूरा भर दिया था उसने. Then we got him कि इसको change करो. So I said that I did not interrupt at first. So do not put that also. Second, do not make your hobbies laden with social service. Do not make your hobbies too much laden with social service. It is not desirable, it is not needed for the job, it is also not very reliable as a person. What have you been doing? I have been working with TCS. Hobbies में सारा social service लिखा हुआ है. ये NGO, वो NGO में काम किया हुआ है. अच्छा, UPSC में IAS क्यों बनना चाहते हो? सर, social service और बड़े platform पे करना. I have to do social service at a bigger platform. नहीं होगा तो क्या करेंगे? वापस TCS. Does not look good. Does not look very good. Does not look like, because see, the reason is that the person who's taking your interview has seen a person who's social activist. That social activist who's really a social activist does not feel at all that I need to join civil services. I have been lucky to meet social activists and a lot of them. Alright, so they never feel that अच्छा हाँ IAS बन जाएंगे, वो सोचते ही नहीं है वैसा कि अभी ऐसे. They are always continuously wearing a हवाई चप्पल and carrying a झोला. They will be very happy कि यहाँ पर हमने ये किया, यहाँ पर हमने ये किया. I'd also at this point want to take the name of one of my students, Mitali Sethi, from my first batch of MGP. Rank 56 she was there. I still think that among all the few hundred students that have been selected, she was then also socially oriented. Even now, I think she's very socially oriented because newspaper reporting also keeps happening, and I also. So the point is that, and when I meet her, things have not changed. उस समय भी हवाई चप्पल में should be there, and right now I can tell you that if I meet her, she'll be very grounded, excited about कि सर ये ट्राइबल एरिया में हम लोग ये कर रहे हैं, यहाँ पर एक स्कूल खोला है, यहाँ पर एक आंगनबाड़ी खोली है. So the personality itself is very different. You can't fake it. You can't really fake it. ठीक है? So do not make it too socially oriented and then सर किया नहीं है. See, there is a very big difference between यहाँ सोचना और actually करना. जैसे अभी है ना कि all of you must be thinking about studying all the time, but actually studying not happening. It's not the same as thinking about studies and actually studying. They are different things. They are different or not? है ना? They are different things, right? So that's why thinking about social service and actually doing social service is very different. Actually, people who are doing social service, they are out there in the sun, not sitting in air-conditioned rooms. वो 6 बजे उठकर 7 o'clock, they are teaching children under the flyover. They are doing that, and they don't feel कि सरकारी नौकरी मिल जाएगी तो ये करूँगा. That's not what they do. That's not what they're seeking. Orientation is completely different. वो नहीं सोच रहे कि IAS बन जाए. और जो सोच रहे हैं वो they are imagining things. What are they thinking? I have to do social service. So what is the few things that you need to do? Oh, because I have to do social service. One is I need IAS. अगर IAS नहीं होता तो ऑक्सफोर्ड से ये डिग्री करनी है, नहीं तो हार्वर्ड से ये डिग्री करनी है. सोशल सर्विस किया नहीं है कभी, बट सोचते बहुत हैं. Now, bureaucracy does have a problem with such social activists. There are certain things. So why again is, as a district collector or as a law enforcement officer, your common experience will be that who do you see as a social activist? What will happen is, you are sitting there in the morning having tea or coffee, you will see that outside your home or outside the office, somebody is protesting. किस लिए? तो पता चलेगा कि old pension scheme के लिए protest कर रहे हैं. OPS, bring back old pension scheme. Now what will happen is, you will, if you are not experienced, you will say कि अच्छा ये जो 200 with 200 people, the person who's protesting, who is he? And in Uttar Pradesh and Bihar, you will get the response that sir, he's a social activist. Experience तुमको नहीं रहेगा, तो you will ask him, sir आप करते क्या हैं? बोलेंगे हम सामाजिक कार्यकर्ता हैं, old pension scheme के लिए कर रहे हैं. Experience हो जाएगा, तो क्या करोगे? पहले लाठी चार्ज कराओगे. You will say कि लाठी चार्ज करें, हटाएं पहले इनको. फिर बुलाओगे कि क्या दिक्कत है. You will clearly find out that person is MLA who lost election last time. Next year elections are there, so शुरू हो रहा है. So as a bureaucrat, you will have a certain amount of disdain for such social activists. है ना? It will be there. It will be there. I can tell you, we run a coaching, and I know that if somebody walks in tomorrow in the institute and he says that, sir, मैं social activist हूँ, I clearly know what will be his agenda. It will turn out that he is doing a big puja का आयोजन, and he will want a lot of chanda, and he will have 4 muscle men around him. So what is happening is anyway. So that's the point here is that you have certain chunks of social service. As a young person in college, you have done some work, put it. But don't make it overtly laden. It is not that because you're a social activist, you will get marks. That does not carry any marks. Remember, the interview panel will base your entire score on a due diligence on your profile. So if things don't add up, whatever you written, you are a social activist, what areas you have worked on, so you will say jargon like women empowerment. I will not understand. I'll ask a second question. मतलब what in women empowerment किस क्षेत्र में काम किया है? मतलब डंबल उठवाते थे, क्या करते थे आप? है ना? women empower कैसे किया? तो कि सर महिला शिक्षा पर काम, पढ़ाते थे, खुद बैठ के पढ़ते थे, पढ़ाते थे, क्या करते थे? या स्कूल चलाते थे. तो क्या कि कुछ नहीं किया उन्होंने. यहाँ सोचते थे बस कि हम काम कर रहे हैं, क्योंकि जो काम करते हैं दे आर वेरी डिफरेंट, दैट्स अ वेरी सेपरेट कैटेगरी. So in hobbies, do not put, acha, pursue whatever you do, put in hobbies, make sure that at least you pursue it for 2-3 weeks, at least for 2-3 weeks, if you're going to put something in your hobbies. It's okay if you don't have a single hobby, that's also all right, but I would generally recommend that 1 or 2 hobbies is a good enough thing. Putting hobbies such as cricket, football, sports, anything, that is also a good enough hobby. You can put it, not a big problem. All right? But बहुत अतरंगी type hobbies मत डालिएगा, कि मतलब nobody has heard of that hobby. है ना, बहुत वियर्ड हॉबीज नहीं डालिएगा, थोड़ा सा नॉर्मल रहे, है ना. एनी क्वेश्चंस ऑन दिस हॉबीज? यस, हाँ बोलिए. फॉर विच आई हैव, ओके, वन थिंग इज, एज फार एज आई नो, you will not be allowed to carry a single certificate inside the examination hall, in the interview hall. वो सारे certificate वहीं धरे रह जाओगे and you will be going even without your watch. They will not see a single document. These days, they have said that if you have written something, produce a certificate, but even last year, you are not allowed to go with a single certificate. Yes, sir, ये सारे हमारे certificates and these are my achievements. So that will not be carried. Certificates are not needed for the hobbies. So you can write whatever hobbies, you should be able to answer questions on them. Okay? Yes. Any other hobby? Yes. Huh? Yes, those are good hobbies. Vipassana, meditation, very common hobbies. Those are fine enough hobbies. You should know a few things about it though. Okay? Teaching can be a good hobby. Teaching can be a decently good hobby. Don't have, teaching is a good, mentoring I would not say is not a great hobby, because then the umbrella becomes very, they do not particularly understand कि अच्छा mentoring में करते क्या थे तुम. ठीक है? So that will be, है ना? So that's with respect to hobbies. हाँ. Yes, yes, you can say that, sir, you could have played, for example, extracurricular, for example, you have been into dramatics, public speaking, extempore, whatever is there, you can do it. All right, that's a good enough thing to do. Yes. It is technical, so you have to, see, it is a preparable thing. आप डाल सकते हो उसको Formula F1. But remember that at least few dozen hours you should have watched it. At least a few dozen hours. ठीक है, you say that I like to watch documentaries on discovery, then few things you should know. सबसे common वाली, you know, BBC की common documentary I would have expected. Our Planet you must have watched. If you're putting nature documentaries or something, then I know, I would expect that at least David Attenborough you should know. That is some, because वो पहला होता है, ठीक है, सब देखते हैं उसको, ठीक है. Then coming with respect to your work experience, here, see, you can put your internships and prepare them. But इसमें एक चीज जो बचना बच्चे, वो ये होता है कि some of us after college they were very clear that we have to prepare for civils. So generally you may not have worked that well in college. You may not have worked that well in college. So make sure that what you have not done, avoid it as much as possible. Just say you have done an internship in, for example, AI. Now it looks very fancy, it will look very good to your friends. If you don't remember a single project in AI, or if you cannot defend, you are not aware of what are the latest developments in AI, which means that I would give that if you are going to put AI, I would expect that at least 30 to 50 hours of video, YouTube watching you will have to do to know, understand fully what is AI. Why driverless cars can be the future. ये सब पर पूरा आपको, there are hundreds of ideas on this. See, remember one thing, you will often have this doubt that, sir, I am a young generation person, I have been watching a lot of AI videos. I'm aware that in robotics, what has happened in AI. Those people, I'm very sure, they don't know as much as me, all right? Now, here you understand that even in the Bitcoin trading and all those questions, they don't have to be a better trader than you. But what will happen is he will have written and he will have written Bitcoin trading, or he will have written AI and she will have written AI and he will have written AI. I'll ask him 4 questions, he will answer, and I'll ask him the same questions. By second, third day, I know that, relatively, I know that who's a bogus AI enthusiast and who's a real AI enthusiast. Because I don't have to know about, what are those flying things called? Yes, I don't have to know about drones, but I'll ask, okay, you are a drone enthusiast, tell me 3 or 4 major drone companies of the world. So he will probably be able to say, sir, majorly the companies are located in West. Then there is China, and China is having a lead. In India, you have 2 or 3 major companies, but they are only doing R&D, or they are only importing from China or from Europe, rerouting from China to Europe and from Europe to India. But majorly in India, sir, drone technology, only 2 major companies are there. Now he has given me a real answer. All right, so he has an understanding of the drone technology and the drone sector in India. Also, he will be able to say, sir, drone regulations were about to come, that who can fly a drone, and they came with delay, then they gave permission and then they withdrew. So research unable to take off in India. No differentiation between research and actual hobby drone flying, that problem. And licensing norms were very rigid. So drone research did not take place. So he's giving good answer. Now the second candidate is coming from there and he's saying, sir, I also have a drone hobby. You are asking, sir, drone research? He is giving me a generic answer. Sir, drone technology is slowly picking up in India. In Bangalore, there are dozens of companies that are doing research in the field of drone. अरे भाई 3 कंपनी के नाम बताओ. Sir, वो नहीं पता है. Sir, can I tell of US 3 companies? Now I know he is a bogus candidate or he is not prepared. All right, so that's what I mean. Now coming to work experience, you put your internships, work experience of wherever you have put, you will be required to put your monthly salary. उसको देख लेना, अभी तक तो फील्ड मंथली सैलरी की रहती है. सम पीपल पुट एनुअल सैलरी, देन दे आर ऑलवेज स्कैर्ड. और सैलरी भी कुछ ऐसी है कि देखने से लगती कि मंथली होगी, पता चलता है बाद में एनुअल थी, है ना, कुछ की ऐसी रहती है. द वर्ल्ड इज़ अ वेरी अनइक्वल प्लेस. सम पीपल विल एंड अप पुटिंग सर 3.15 और दूसरे बंदे का बाद में पता चलेगा एनुअल था, दूसरे बंदे का रहता है 5, वो मंथली रहता है, वो अलग डरा रहता है कि कमीशन विल आस्क. लास्ट ईयर आई हैड अ कैंडिडेट, तो काला काला करके भेजता था डैफ, बोले सर 7 लाख पर मंथ इज द सैलरी, सो आई एम अफ्रेड दैट व्हाट जजमेंट विल हैपन, है ना. सो मैं आपको बता देता हूँ, लेकिन दिस इज, सो देयर इज अ डिसेंट अमाउंट ऑफ वेरिएशन. ऑलराइट, सो monthly salary will be asked. Put those things gross in gross form. Also prepare few things. One is that what work you have done. The first is what work you have done or what project you worked on, है ना, इसको prepare करना है हमें. Second is prepare the city where you are working. है ना. So if you have been working in Bangalore, few 3 questions definitely I will ask you, that what is the reason that Bangalore became a hub for or became the Silicon Valley of India? What is the correct answer? Why Bangalore became a Silicon Valley of India? Huh? Huh? MNCs were initially, why did MNCs initially concentrate there? That's the question. Uh-huh. IT policy. Then what is needed is, then can you tell me what were the elements of the IT policy of the state? You should be aware of that if you're going to say that. All right, ठीक है, कोई बात. ठीक है, so you will have to prepare. Then what is the reason city where you have to be very thorough with this. So this is with respect to your work experience. Any questions here with respect to work experience? Sometimes what has happened is, see, people generally try to balance it with aesthetics, which means that you would not want to put that first prize in guitar in IIT Bombay event, first prize in guitar in St. Stephen's event. उसके नीचे क्या लिख दिया हॉबी में, गिटार प्लेइंग. उसको थोड़ा लोग अवॉइड करते हैं. कोशिश करेंगे कि थोड़ा वो देखने में थोड़ा ठीक लगे, मतलब इट्स नॉट गिटार गिटार एंड ओनली गिटार, वो ना रहे. समवेयर ट्राई टू फाइंड द स्वीट स्पॉट. You will have to work on that. All right. When you fill up these things, also make sure that please do not overfill it. 2 candidates in particular I remember last year, brilliant candidates, otherwise who were 200 plus. But for some reason, it was impossible to convince them to write less in their DAF. See, there are 2 things with respect to DAF. When you prepare your DAF, the commission marking is not, on popularly I often see on YouTube that it is written that people from better colleges are at an advantage. I'm telling you, if you are from a good college, you are at no advantage. Be very clear with this fact. The reason is there are just too many people from good colleges. That no longer excites the interviewer at all. Your good college degree does not excite you. On the other hand, if you're not from a great college, it does get a little interesting because there is some diversity. Only last year, the demography of the candidates have changed. Last year was the first time where I was seeing that enough number of humanities students were there. Otherwise, 3 years back, out of 10 students, we were interviewing, 7 of them were engineers, and out of 5 of them were from an IIT. That was the challenge. So technically, last year, things started changing. And I was very happy when I saw that rank 1 is from a humanities college. So from St. Stephen's. So one is that your college does not give you an edge, because what happens is the minute you have certain tags, see, this is the expectation. This expectation will be your performance expectation. This expectation will be based on completely on peer ranking, which means that if you say you're from Stephens and she's from Stephens, I will be comparing you two. Because वो सबसे पहले आ जाती है बात. The minute you ask a question, I see, अच्छा Stephens से है. Now he's prepared very thoroughly. He has all the answers, and the other candidate is who's just thinking of Stephens and not preparing accordingly. So your bar, when you write too many things, you raise the expectation. That is the thing. If you write less things, the expectation is lower, and you have not set the bar very high, and you have to perform as per the bar that is set by you. Whatever bar you have set, you have to perform according to that. So if you've written this also, that also, some people write Oxford University, they have done too many virtual courses. Like some students have done too many virtual courses from Harvard, Oxford, Stanford. So now, and there will be another candidate who's actually gone to US and UK and studied from, actually physically studied in Oxford and studied in Harvard and Stanford. Now, अब क्या है ना कि I am not going to stress my mind thinking कि अच्छा ये correspondence है और ये actual में, and there will be big difference in their personalities. Or it's not because education, you don't get most of the education in the books. You get it from your peers. When we are having this little gathering, the purpose here is that if we are able to form some groups here in this class itself, you will learn more from your peers by observing them than you will get it from your teachers or from the books. Be very clear with that. So there will be big difference in a person who says that, sir, I have done my master's in XYZ from Stanford University and bracket mein correspondence, then there's a very big difference. Versus somebody, and there are enough number of people from American universities. So do not ever think that bahut exalted hai, that's not. Nothing seems to be exotic these days. People from all walks of life are coming for the personality test. All right? So don't set the expectation too high and then the performance. At the same time, don't leave it too empty, कि बार इतना लो है कि कुछ भी करो तो ओवर परफॉर्मर लगो. ये भी नहीं करना है ना? कि इतना ईमानदार है, कितने घंटे पढ़ते हो? सर आधा घंटा पढ़ता हूँ. तो अब कुछ भी करोगे सक्सेसफुल हो, है ना? कि सुबह आधा घंटा तो जरूर पढ़ता हूँ, है ना? दूसरी तरफ मुखर्जी नगर सेंटर पे जाते हैं, कितने घंटे पढ़ते हो? सर 18 घंटे से कम पिछले 3 साल में किसी दिन नहीं पढ़ा है. बस प्रीलिम्स में लक नहीं काम कर रहा है ना? फिर कहोगे ना कि 3 महीने भी 18 घंटे प्रीलिम्स के पहले हो जाओगे तो निकल जाएगा, उतनी फाइट तो नहीं है. लेकिन अब वो 18 घंटे वाला बच्चा, उससे भी डर लगता है. बोलते सर किसी दिन तो यकीन नहीं करिएगा 22 घंटे भी पढ़ लेते हैं, है ना? तो दोनों काम नहीं करना. फिर क्वेश्चन पूछूंगा कि ड्राफ्टिंग कमेटी के चेयरमैन कौन थे? बोलेगा सर अभी इमीडिएटली याद नहीं आ रहा है, लेकिन जानते हैं. बिग प्रॉब्लम. देन यू सेट द बार, है ना? दैट्स अ बिग प्रॉब्लम. एंड हियर आधा घंटा पढ़ते हैं. इससे पूछोगे हु फर्स्ट mooted द आइडिया ऑफ कॉन्स्टिट्यूएंट असेंबली, तो कहेंगे सर आधा घंटा पढ़ते हैं, क्या एक्सपेक्ट करते हो? अंबेडकर तक जानते हैं, राइट? तो ये वहाँ भी एक सिचुएशन ऐसी होती है, ठीक है? यहाँ भी एक सिचुएशन ऐसी होती है. लास्ट ईयर 2 candidates in particular, my blood was literally boiling, and I was not very happy at all. One of them was an overachiever as per me, and he or she did not get very less marks, was somewhere in 150, 160, but he or she was a 200 plus candidate, but written so many things that in the end the commission ended up telling him or her that you have done so many things, we are unable to understand you. Matlab you have done it from here also, you've done it there also, and we are unable to understand. So that should not be the case. There should be a coherent person coming out from the paper that you have submitted. You cannot be that I am a grandmaster in chess also, I play badminton also, guitar also, and then academics में topper हूँ और coding भी करता हूँ. Then there is a little challenge to me कि मतलब because the person who claims to do everything, he often does nothing. ठीक है? So this is with respect to the work experience. Apart from, so this is all as of now. 2-3 चीजें I will try to repeat, and how to balance the time. See, right now we have reached a phase where at least first priority will be reading the newspaper. If not the backlogs, then at least read the newspaper and make daily notes. The reason here is that if you have read the notes, the newspaper every day and made short notes, you will be having one guarantee, that sir कोई question आएगा, I'll be able to address because you are confident that you have not missed a single news. This confidence is very important. To be very honest, this confidence makes a lot of difference. Otherwise, you will be always going into the interview hall like shaky like a leaf. डरे हुए हैं कि कौन सा क्वेश्चन, बिकॉज 10 दिन का पेपर नहीं पढ़ा है, अब डरे हुए कि वहीं से क्वेश्चन. सो दिस शुड नॉट हैपन. सो रीड द न्यूज़पेपर. सेकंड इज दैट as the interview approaches, it's not our job to see whether we will make it or not. That is not for us to decide. That is for the commission to decide. We'll be doing our duty, and our duty as anybody who's written the mains is to at least orient oneself towards the interview in small degrees, if not in great degrees. The third thing is that we will at least go ahead and start preparing 2, 3, 4 questions with respect to the home state. ठीक है, ऐसे करके we'll start reading. Not too many hours, but I would say that even if you give 40, 45 minutes every day for framing this, generally 9:30 you sit and you just give 1.5 hours, maximum 40, minimum 40 minutes to 90 minutes, not more than this. That is not needed. You start working in a digital diary or something so that it helps you. If things don't work out as per, if God has some other plans for you, that is a euphemism, better way of putting it. If God has some other plans for you, then at least you have a usable or reusable database. All right. So at least 40 minutes to 90 minutes you can do this. Treat it as a meditation work. Treat it as a meditation work, which means that you are going through the ruckus of a lot of things. Prelims bhi dekhna hai, mains bhi dekhna hai, and then 90 minutes, it is not going to be so much about reading, it will be about reflecting. Interview preparation, I repeat, will require a lot of reflection. It's not about just knowing facts, mugging up facts. Thinking will be very much needed. Like the ethics paper, thinking will be needed. So if a question comes, what is the reason why Uttar Pradesh is a poor law and order perception, then you will have to think and you will have to write down somewhere. And after this lot of thinking, you will be able to come up with 2 or 3 points. That, sir, being close to the national capital, NCR region, especially the cities adjoining it, news of Uttar Pradesh becomes national news very fast. Whereas the national media often ignores news coming from far off places such as the northeast or central states such as Madhya Pradesh. है ना? मध्य प्रदेश में कुछ भी होगा, nothing comes to Delhi, right? वहाँ तक पहुँच ही नहीं पाता है ना? Supreme Court also will behave as if it is the Supreme Court of Delhi, not Supreme Court of India. Something will happen in Delhi, it will become, the judges will take immediate notice. So these challenges remain. है ना? Anyway, so that you have to do. Then apart from this, ideally what I would say is 90 minutes to 2 hours is max you can spend apart from the newspaper work. Not more than that. है ना? That is what you should do. Also, one good way of wasting time would be is that if you know that you're going to waste time because it's difficult to be productive right now, so please start forming groups. Start forming groups among yourselves and do interact with people, of your home state and your optional subject. Primarily the home state ko thoda sa karo because it will make it a lot easier. At least have a group of 3 to 5 people with whom you are having discussions. Be a good listener and see how, and also have at least 2 or 3 intersecting groups. When you are a part of a group, what is the big challenge? Group think. You have broken that, what I'd say, trajectory and written the mains examination. You meet people who are not writing the mains exam, who are flunking at the prelim stage. What will happen is there is a group of 7 people. And what will happen is आपस में topper decide किया हुआ है. Everybody is getting less than 65 marks in prelims. But ये जैसे ही 1% will start studying either ये top करेगा इस बार, ये top, इस बार इसका rank 1 आएगा. पूरा group ही, this is the benchmark and the whole group is standing here. ठीक है, so that is one group thing. So try to be a part of 2 or 3 groups. These groups should not be your comfort zones. मतलब 3 roommate मिलकर mains की तैयारी कर ली बहुत अच्छा है ना? Otherwise 3 roommate interview के लिए not suitable. तीनों को 161 आ गए. पता ही नहीं था कि तीनों 161 वाले थे. बाहर की दुनिया देखी ही नहीं थी. तीनों खुश हैं, है ना? तीनों हो रहा है तो तीनों का रिजर्व लिस्ट में ही हो रहा है. अलग दिक्कत है कि बाकी दुनिया पार्टी अलग कर रही है, इनकी पार्टी अलग सीजन में हो रही है ना? समर में बाकी लोग सिलेक्शन की पार्टी कर रहे हैं, ये लोग रिजर्व लिस्ट वाले विंटर में पार्टी थ्रो कर रहे हैं, है ना? तो ये नहीं करना है. Try to be a part of 2, 3 intersectional groups. Make sure that if at all you can get some mock interviews as early as possible. please go for a mock interview. What will happen is, bacha, that you will be preparing in one direction, and the first mock that you will take, it will suddenly the questions will be very different. You have written the mains, so you should realize this. Mains test series लिखते हो तो पढ़ के कुछ आते हैं और क्वेश्चन कुछ आता है. इंटरव्यू में द गैप इज मच वाइड एंड. यू प्रिपेयर्ड योर होम स्टेट बाय हार्टेड ऑप्शनल, है ना, संस्कृत के श्लोक याद करके गए हुए हो, और क्वेश्चन वहाँ पर आ जाएगा कि अच्छा यू आर वेयरिंग ए साड़ी, सो टेल मी विच सिल्क इट इज. अब तुमको शिफॉन के अलावा नाम ही नहीं पता है कि दूसरा क्या होता है. कॉटन शिफॉन 2-3 पढ़े थे, मम्मी ने साड़ी खरीद के दे दी, वो पहन के चले गए. And a very common question every year from female candidates is, okay, what sari is there? Now, male candidates will not fully appreciate it because एक तो आधे क्या 95% की शादी नहीं हुई है, तो साड़ी किसी ने खरीदा नहीं है. Now, the people who are taking the interview, they have bought sari in their lifetime, so they will know the sari also कि कितने तरह के silk होते हैं. ठीक है, so that is a very common question. So you are not preparing for it and you are not exposed to this idea. The first mock itself will set you in the right direction. Also, मॉक स्ट्रैटेजी बहुत क्लियर रखना. वेरी सिंपल 2-point मॉक स्ट्रैटेजी होना चाहिए तुम्हारा. ठीक है. देयर आर 2 अप्रोचेस टू मॉक. वन इज टू मेनी, द अदर इज 3 to 5 मॉक्स. कुछ ऐसे भी होते हैं जो 0 मॉक्स वाले हैं. ये बंदा थोड़ा डिप्रेशन में रहता है, ये स्ट्रैटेजी नहीं होती है. ठीक है, 0 मॉक्स वाली, ये बस उसे या तो, है ना, थोड़ा डिप्रेशन है इसलिए मॉक नहीं देने जा रहा है, या गिव अप हो गया है ज़्यादा लाइफ में. ठीक है, जनरली दिस टू हैपेंस. अच्छा, व्हेन यू आर हैविंग दिस टू एनी ऑफ दीज थिंग्स, टू मेनी, इफ यू आर हैविंग दिस स्ट्रैटेजी, बच्चा, मेक श्योर ऑफ 2 things. वन इज यू नोट डाउन क्वेश्चंस फ्रॉम वेरियस मॉक्स, उसको प्रिपेयर करना है. सेकेंड इज यू टेक गाइडेंस फ्रॉम ओनली 1 or 2 places. Guidance 1 or 2 places, not more than that. And reject or don't listen to mock feedback. जैसे है ना माता पिता की एडवाइस, है ना, एक कान से सुनो दूसरे से निकाल देना. फीडबैक ज़्यादा नहीं लेना है. 1-2 जगह डिसाइड कर लो वेर यू हैव योर मेंटर्स दैट सर दिस इज द फीडबैक एंड व्हाट डू यू थिंक, व्हाट शुड आई बी वर्किंग ऑन. नॉट मोर देन दैट. ऑल राइट. इन दिस एज माता की पिता की एडवाइस एक कान से सुनते दूसरे से निकल जाती, पता नहीं चलता है बोला क्या था उन्होंने. दोस्तों की कूड़ा एडवाइस एकदम याद रहती है ना. All right, so this is one strategy, but do not take feedback. Otherwise, what will happen is, because there are too many specialists, so if you go to multi-speciality, you will nearly have if you meet too many doctors, nearly every organ of yours will be having some problem. कोई कहेगा नाक टेढ़ी है, आँख खराब है, दिल की बीमारी है, किडनी खराब है, लीवर में प्रॉब्लम है, फैटी लीवर है, सारी बीमारियाँ हो जाएंगी. तो डोंट मीट टू मेनी स्पेशलिस्ट. 1-2 जगह है ना डिसाइड. जनरल फिजिशियन को पकड़ लो, उससे बोलो खांसी हो रखी है दवा दे दो, उतने में हो जाएगा काम तुम्हारा. सो टेक इनपुट्स फ्रॉम 1 or 2 places, वेरीफाई देम, दैट इज ऑल. Otherwise, what will happen is somebody will say you are standing poorly, somebody will say you are very fast, somebody will say you are very slow. In the end, what happens is you become too many persons in one person. है ना, कि you are having multiple split personalities in one person because of too much input. कोई कहा धीरे बोलो, कोई कहा ज़्यादा हंसते हो, कोई कहता हंसते नहीं हो. बड़ी प्रॉब्लम्स हैं ये इंटरव्यू में. ठीक है, तो ज़्यादा मॉक स्ट्रैटेजी. इफ़ यू आर हैविंग 3 to 5 strategies, I would not recommend it so much, but you can go ahead with it, because sometimes people who are a little on the sensitive side, they are not able to take so much feedback. So if you have that strategy also, that is fine. First mock you do take without preparation. Don't rate yourself. You are enough. First mock you take, and don't think that no, don't ever think that I will have a perfect answers personality and then I'll go for the first mock. That should not happen, because most of the times what happens is every year I'll have at least 15-20 students, and for some reason they will have not prepared. For the same reason God will have played a joke. Interview कब होगा, या तो पहले दिन या तीसरे दिन या फर्स्ट वीक में रहेगा. And again, third thing will be, sir, it is my last attempt and first interview. So if it sounds familiar, कि last attempt है आपका और पहली बार interview call आ रहा है, तैयारी पहले से करके रखो. There are enough number of people who are having their last attempt first interview, they are clearing it and getting into service. ठीक है, so don't have, तैयारी पूरी करके रखो, मतलब those of you, and take the first mock. Don't take too much. Don't think that first mock, you be very clear that, sir, this is my under-prepared attempt, and I will note down the questions, and by second or third mock, you can start having expectation from yourself. And I don't take this advice too strongly कि सर 10 मॉक दे दिए सुनता किसी की नहीं हूँ मैं, ये भी नहीं. मतलब मैंने कहा है कि पहला मॉक दे दो और किसी की ना सुनो. That is what I've said. राइट, ये नहीं कि 10 मॉक दे दिए सर सुनता किसी के नहीं हूँ, एक का इम्प्लीमेंट नहीं किया है मैंने, जब आई एम व्हाट आई एम. अब ये सब भी दिक्कत है थोड़ी, है ना. थर्ड फोर्थ मॉक के बाद यू शुड स्टार्ट हैविंग सम एक्सपेक्टेशंस, एंड इफ यू वर्क ऑन द content, you should by third to fifth mock, you will be a lot different. I still remember there was one candidate, a doctor candidate. So my cabin used to be here in the basement before the lockdown happened. So her interview was on 3 weeks. Yes, doctor from Haryana, PGI Rohtak. Anybody from that college, PGI Rohtak? Yes, 1 or 2 people, all right. This candidate, she was a very fast speaker and she had not prepared. For every question, she gave very long answers. The good thing was that there was 3 weeks before her interview. So I just asked her that in 1 week, I asked her why you are wearing such big chashma. She said, sir, I've left my chashma at home. I'll get new ones. And this is my, backup wala chashma main pehen kar interview dene aayi hu. Thankfully, 2 or 3 things we required her to implement. And the beauty of it was that just 10 days later when I had a second sitting, so the first time it was a disaster. She had probably memorized all the answers. I don't know what had happened, but she gave extremely long answers to every question. And even in questions of fact, she gave an opinion. You understand what is that? I ask you, what is the population of Haryana? It has to be a number, right? You have not seen it, sir. I don't know the exact population of Haryana, but it must be at least 1 to 2 crores. Now that is a problem. I did not ask your opinion. I asked a factual question. So the first time, the second time, prepared very well. So finally, when she got the result, I was very curious. She got a good rank. She got under 90 rank. And the last message, I asked, so happy, how much you got, sir? 201 marks. I said, what is the lesson? She said, sir, 2 things. One is कि तैयारी करो, और दूसरा जितना पूछा जाए उतना बोलो, है ना. Because somebody had told her that you have to impress the examiner, or you have to, it's a game. देखो एक दो चीज और है. People with corporate experience will tell you that interview is a game, it's a test, XYZ things. I'm telling you, it is a very sarkari interview. It cannot be more sarkari than that. Please do not listen to any corporate trainer or anybody like that who says that you have to expose your person. Don't go for anything fancy when it comes to civil services personality test. If it is your first interview and you are having your head in the cloud because you have cracked a Google interview or BCG interview or anything like that, please put it out of your mind. This is a very sarkari interview for a very regular apex job. So do not have any carryovers from anywhere in this interview. All right. So in the end, I said, "Jitna pucha jaye utna hi bolo." And she said, "Sir, Bhosle sir ka board tha." Everybody said he doesn't give marks, but he gave 201 marks. So there are at least a few dozen people like that whom I wish I could show you the screenshot with a very happy, and she got a good rank, and she got Indian Administrative Service. All right, it was the first interview. So that you have to give yourself the time. And you also have to, है ना, और 3 mistakes generic बता देता हूँ, इसको implement कर लेना. 3 mistakes why people will get less marks. Less marks के 3 mistakes होते हैं. सबसे पहला under preparation. Generic है थोड़ा ये. दूसरा जो है जो आपका elaborate speaking. Sir, the person was 63 years old. मैं समझा के आ गया हूँ पूरा कि डिस्ट्रिक्ट मजिस्ट्रेट बनूंगा तो क्या मेरे 3 प्रायोरिटीज रहेंगे. That is not needed. If I'm asking what are your 3 priorities, you say 3 words or you say 3 or 4 sentences. But don't tell your life story there. Third is fast speaking. If you are a fast speaker, work from right now. If you are a fast speaker, work from right now. Sure short way to get less marks is you are a fast speaker. Some students are already smiling and realizing that hai ye dikkat. कि सर मुझसे है ना, कुछ बच्चे था एक, अच्छा क्या होता है फास्ट स्पीकर्स के साथ. सो आई आज दिस कैंडिडेट, वही अच्छे स्माइल वाले बच्चे थे. मैंने पूछा कि डोंट गिव सच लॉन्ग आंसर्स एंड डोंट स्पीक सो फास्ट. द पर्सन हु इज सिटिंग इन फ्रंट ऑफ यू इज नियरली 63 years old. You will speak this fast, they will not understand, समझने में दिक्कत होगी. He says कि sir, if I don't speak fast, I have a fear that I will not be able to enlighten them with all the points that I have. है ना? अच्छा, enlighten is a very good word. हिंदी में प्रज्वलित करना होता है इसका मतलब. The problem here is that what makes you think that the person who's taking the 8th interview that day, is interested in being enlightened? Why do you think that just like the end of this session, I don't see that you will be ever enthusiastic in getting some new perspectives. जैसे कि जल्दी खत्म हो और घर जाएं, है ना? So definitely what happens is he says, so I speak faster. I said, no, you don't do that. Maybe the person who's asking you the question is not so interested in being enlightened. He's looking for an answer. He has asked the same question to 2 people of your similar profile, and he's just judging you there. He wants a simple answer. Less marks पाने हैं, ये 3 rules होते हैं. अच्छा, similarly, high achievers, high marks. Then they will be very, they have a very threadbare preparation. Which means that if you are from Mangalore or Udupi region, you will be prepared that what are the temples there. There is a temple there where anybody from Mangalore, Udupi region here in this class or has lived around that place? Hijab wala question nahi pooch raha hu. Something else. So there is a temple there where the god is, Lord Vishnu statue is not facing the door. When we enter a temple through the door, we see the god's face, right? So there the god's face is turned on the other side. So there will be story behind it. So they will be having very threadbare preparation. They'll be knowing it. If I'm going to ask a question from a Udupi student and he's very good, he will be knowing that story. Ki haan sir, I prepared that, wahan par ye temple hai, this is the story behind it. They will be there. So they'll have very threadbare preparation. Second, they will have written answers, which they are able to improve. Not very elaborate, simple, chote answers. Third is, there'll be limited words answer. And they'll be slow to medium pace speakers. बहुत आराम से बात करेंगे. They will not be in a hurry. They will not do violence with your ear. All right? Slow and medium pace speakers. This is very important. बहुत आराम से बात करिएगा. You do not, and see, when you prepare and even as you go on, learn to inculcate that you put your case, आप अपना पक्ष रखें. For any question, for whether it is a controversial question, whether it is any other question, you have to state your position and then you keep quiet after stating your position. You will get a cross question that why do you think so? Allow them the opportunity to ask you a cross question. Do not end up saying that, sir, this is what is happening and in my opinion this is wrong and these are the 3 reasons why I think this is wrong. Then you are bombarding them with content. है ना? ये नहीं करना है. All right, so this is all.